Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ETN, the most European podcast in the whole wide world. Today is Tuesday, it's the 27th of January, and it is 11 o'clock, bang on. We are on time.
We're on time, which is a bit of a weird feeling, actually.
Little ear adjustment.
Yeah. Well, no, I had to actually put my headphones in because they weren't in. I was writing tweets.
He was tweeting. Too busy tweeting. What a lineup we have today. We also have some incredible news. Everyone has already seen that Synthesia has raised a 200 million Series E, which is almost double their valuation. A manual clap. Manual clap is one of the highest honors you can receive on ETN. It's a lot better than the soundboard clap, which you just heard then as we started the show. But there is 4 billion. 4 billion. We're going to be joined by their CFO this Thursday to dig into that a bit more and learn a bit more about the raise and what their plans are going forward.
Indeed.
We have a lovely lineup today. Someone that I'm excited to talk to all of our guests, but there's someone in particular that I'm excited to talk about who's coming on towards the end of the show. Tyler Dent, co-founder and CEO of Beehive. Luke and I fanboying a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to be fanboying. It's an unfortunate, event, but I will be fanboying.
I'm going to fanboy as well. I put a tweet out earlier.
Cool guy.
It's so weird to think that. I think it was maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. I was an avid listener of the My First Million podcast. I know you still are, Luke, with Sean and Sam. And
shout out to Sean and Sam.
Shout out to those guys.
They pioneered a little bit of the broadcaster.
They did actually, yeah. They were kind of the first to broadcast.
Yeah.
Really. And now it's kind of like skinny jeans. It's cyclical, this thing. They always come back in fashion. And now here we are. You're
That's
the
a good take. I like that.
Dubbed by, that was just off the dome.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, no, that's good. I like that.
Plenty more where that came from, buddy. But obviously we know that, Sifted dubbed this year of the broadcaster. It was a massive year, especially for us. We were featured in the article. But Tyler Dent, he used to be essentially my favorite, one of my favorite guests on My First Million. And, that was 4 years ago. And now we've got the pleasure of hosting him today on our show, which is an amazing thing. We're going to dig into Beehive and all the great stuff that they're doing over there. The newsletter wars. They recently hit 2 million MRR, which is an insane metric. So we're going to dig into that with him. But I've jumped the queue. I've completely jumped the queue here on our order of play for our guests of the day. Luke, do you want to maybe just tell us a little bit about who we have on today?
Indeed, I can.
We've got 6 guests.
Yeah. We have an absolute mega roster of an order of play today. We're going to be whistling through them. So first 40 minutes is just me and Ronan talking. We're going to talk about I think you mentioned what we're talking about. I was writing tweets.
Well, I can go into it more. We have a lot of news.
We have a lot of news, which is exciting. First on the roster is Synthesia, and then at 11:40 to 11:55 we have Lucy Squires. She's the brand director at Fixer AI. Their series, they just did a Series B or semi-recently.
The last sort of 6 months, but they recently rebranded to Fixer.
Oh,
that is the big thing. They've done a full rebrand. They've changed their colors, their fonts, their name, which it can be dangerous.
It can be dangerous.
Doing a big rebrand like that. But it looks like it's been handled expertly well.
Talking about, Jaguar, that's pretty dangerous.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Poor team
but thankfully,
Jaguar.
Fixer haven't done that. Then we have at 12 to 12:20, the legend, Callum Woodcock. He is the CEO of Wineify. Wineify is like a next generation fintech platform that democratizes fine wine investment by comparing data-driven, they're very quantitative. Fine wine is kind of known as this, they like to say the Red Trouser Brigade. It's quite, it's quite personal. It's quite, deals are getting done in the vineyards.
Quite posh.
Yeah. Whereas this
vineyard deals.
Wineify is a very quantitative, or they lean heavily on the data-driven analysis piece, and make sure everything in wine and investing in fine wine is is transparent, and they're killing it, which is really cool.
Very cool.
Then you have then we've got the legend, friend of the stream, Max Buchan. He is the founder and CEO of Valerian.
A return guest. Is it number? This is second appearance.
This is second appearance. This is our second guest that we've had for a second appearance.
Yeah.
He's coming on at 12:30 to 12:50. Valerian basically builds infrastructure for organizations operating in like high trust kind of environments. They pivoted from I think more of a SaaS kind of platform to like they then opened Acra, I believe it's called, which is like a it's more specified for defense. So
all of their customers,
US defense uses it. The US government uses it. The UK government uses it. So yeah, he's mega connected in the defense world, which is going to be good.
I love that engineered for enterprise, hardened for the front lines.
Boom.
Pretty cool, huh?
That sounds like you. It sounds like you've taken that from like Call of Duty.
Yeah. I just thought it sounded cool, so I had to Call of Duty voice it.
That's cool. And then at 1 p.m. to 1:20, we have Stefan Waits. He is the co-founder and CEO of HumanX. HumanX is a global action-first AI platform and summit series. It's going to be good to talk to him. They've done a bunch of their events have been going absolutely nuts.
Yeah. You may know them from Money 2020 or Shop Talk. They are also, I think Stefan's co-founder, or maybe Stefan himself as well, were essentially the brains behind Money 2020 and Shop Talk. Now doing HumanX, traditionally in San Francisco, but they're holding their inaugural event for Europe in September, which we're very excited to hear more about. And then last but not least, we've got Mr. Denk.
Well, no, actually penultimate. We have one at 150, but yeah, then we have Tyler Denk, CEO and co-founder of Beehive. Beehive just hit 2 million MRR. They are an email-first platform, SaaS platform that allows any creator to own and manage their email list. They're now kind of becoming this all-in-one like newsletter operating system. You can build an incredible website on there. They have a bunch of features to go and monetize. Whatever you're doing, you can launch digital products off the back of it. You can run ads. They have an ad network. It's a nuts platform. So
I've used the ad network actually. When we were at Convergence, we used the ad network, and it was we can talk about this when he comes on, but just super quick. This is quite funny because we raised 12 mil pre-seed from some amazing investors, and it was like growth at all costs, browser-based agents before browser-based agents were a thing, and growth at all costs, preparing for a waitlist strategy. We did a few things. First one was like, we paid a newsletter an insane amount, something like $18,000 for like some primary features on their newsletter.
Prime real estate.
Yeah, some prime real estate on that. And it was one of the more well-known AI newsletters. I had like, I can't remember the metrics, but they were nuts.
Like a few 100,000 subs, probably.
Like more,
At least.
think.
Really?
I think it was something, yeah. I think it's the biggest one in the world. And it cost us 18,000. And that got us like 2 features.
Was it Sean Puri's, the milk? What did he
wasn't
do?
Milk Road.
Milk
No.
That was like the first AI
TLDR.
newsletter.
TLDR.
TLDR.
Yeah.
There's another one called Today in AI. We know the founder. I met him for coffee the other day.
One. Oh, very nice.
Yep.
It wasn't that one. But
He's killing it. He's actually killing it on Instagram, which is interesting.
Oh.
It's so interesting. These kind of tech.
We
tech
did our
creator
Instagram video the other day.
Yeah, we did.
Little Insta.
These tech creators is like you've got the personalities depend, like it depends where you are. So on X, like you have to have a certain personality to do well on X. But then that personality might not work on an Instagram. You have to kind of change, and all the algorithms are very different, it's just super interesting. And you get these creators who are like massive on Instagram and can like funnel, hundreds of thousands of email subscribers to their newsletter, but then they try, X or LinkedIn or whatever they want to try, and it is no brainer.
Different game. I think if you're on Insta, you got to be, matcha maxing.
Yeah.
Matcha here, matcha there.
Indeed. And then last 10 minutes of the show, 1:50 till 2 p.m. GMT, we have Jeffrey Dwan. He is the co-founder of Hack Europe. It's Europe's largest student hackathon. 1,000 students, or I think they've got like 2,500 applicants across 3 cities. They launched like last week and have got an incredible amount of applicants, which is really cool. Nice. So he's going to talk and basically plug Hack Europe. So it's going to be good to have Jeffrey on. He pinged me last week and said, "Hey man, can I come on to chat about Hack Europe?" I was like,
"I love
yes,
that.
you can."
I love the bullishness.
Sounds very cool.
Chill. Yes, you can. This
Indeed.
is a place where you can chill.
Indeed, you can. Anyway, moving on. Just before we move on to the onto the.
Oh, you got to rip it.
Leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one place. Go to airwallex.com.
That's airwallex.com.
They gave us a beautiful McLaren F1 car.
You can see right here.
Took me far too long to build.
Well, I think we have some new. I'm going to get the Synthesia news up in a sec, but I think we have some new followers because a couple of our clips did pretty well the other day, and we got, I think, like our followers increased. Oh, nice. Thank you.
Sorry, I thought
No, that's really important. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Thank you for sorting that. That was so adorable. That was like the broadcast version of like, hey, you've got something on your face. Let me get that to you, you know?
Not even prompted by producers.
Hey, let me get that mic for you there, bro.
Of course.
Before we jump into Synthesia, we had a clip, well, two clips do pretty well yesterday when it got some new followers. A fun fact about this Formula One Lego McLaren F1 that you see right here before you, in which Airwallex are a sponsor of F1 of McLaren.
Just general F1.
We were given this by our amazing contact over there at Airwallex, and Luke told me that we were given them. We got one each. We have another one's in the box just behind. I never built mine.
You haven't built one.
Okay, so I'm like talking bad about you for this. I've not even built mine.
Yeah, I know.
But we got these, and Luke goes to me and he says, "Oh, not yeah. We'll probably bang this out tonight. Have them on the show tomorrow." And I was like, "There's no way you're gonna bang that." This is like 5 p.m., half 5 p.m. Obviously, the show's at 11 next day. We get up a bit earlier to prep. So that gave him gave you 5 hours if you didn't like eat or anything.
Yeah, I was like, show notes,
6 to
get
7
that done.
So all the prep for the show, which is like a lot and takes ages, and then build an F1 car. Anyway, it ended up taking how long? 2 months.
Well, I mean, it's taken you longer. You haven't even got yours out of the box.
We agreed we'd only have one. Anyway, let me tell you guys about Sifted.
Moving on.
We're going to bring up, I'm just going to hit my lovely website button here to bring this up. So Synthesia, it's been breaking news. This came out yesterday. Synthesia has hit a 4 billion valuation with a 200 million, that's 200M round led by Google Ventures. And it's awesome to see Matt Miller's popped up. Matt Miller's of Avantic has joined the cap table. We there were rumors a while back. This is months ago now about Matt Miller before Avantic was released on his sort of European focus fund after he spun out of Sequoia, I think it was. So it's great to see it pop up in one of the hottest European AI rounds out there today. But let me just tell you a little bit more about Synthesia. So this is Freya Prassi's article that we're reading off here over at Sifted. London-based AI video platform Synthesia has raised 200 million Series E round, led by Google Ventures, valuing the company at 4 billion. Other new investors in the round include Avantic, the VC firm founded by former Sequoia investors Matt Miller, and Hedosphere. Existing investors, N Ventures, NVIDIA's VC arm, Accel, Clyde Perkins, NEA, PSP Growth, and Air Street Capital also participated in the round. Founded in 2017, Synthesia develops video generation software that creates avatars of people for internal and external company communications. I love their positioning. I think is actually so. There was something I was seeing about AI Slop and Victor. Discussing AI Slop. Victor has been on the show before. We had a very long conversation about AI Slop. But I do feel that Synthesia has done an amazing job at building a moat of specifically high grade enterprise relevant in terms of company relevant.
90% of the Fortune 100 companies are using Synthesia, which is really cool.
Wow, really?
Yeah. They've so it's interesting, right? I think it's in that article. A bunch of articles came out. It was obviously on the news bit of X. It was on Sifted, The Guardian, TechCrunch,
Forbes.
Ton of them, right? Forbes. they've really done the rounds on traditional media, which is cool. And we have the CFO on today.
Thursday.
Thursday.
Coming on Thursday.
CFO on Thursday.
I accidentally promoted him to CEO on our page. Remember the Synthesia? Sorry, Alexandria, the Synthesia comms team pinged me like, "Hey, just noticed that you like promoted our CFO to CEO in your post." And I had to like go back and check it. A little oopsie moment from new media. Sorry about that, guys.
Hey. Anyway, so it's interesting because what they're doing is, I think it was Stefan, one of the co-founders of Synthesia, saying essentially there's two things that they're capitalizing on. One, the AI models are now good enough that you can produce these things. An employee can produce some form of video avatar for another employee for learning and all of that kind of stuff. So there's one thing that the models have got good enough. And then the other thing that they've capitalized on is, or that they are going to start really capitalizing on, is the fact that CEOs on board level are now discussing the fact that they're worried about their workforce not being able to like stay on top of AI and just general like employee development. And Synthesia are basically front running this ability for employees to learn more about AI and the capabilities, and basically ensuring that they're more productive in their jobs. And so it was interesting. He said, I'm going to try and find the quote. I think it's in the Sifted article. Here we go. Yeah. So he said, we see it's at the bottom if you scroll down. We see a rare convergence of two major shifts: a technology shift with AI agents becoming more capable, and a market shift where upskilling and internal knowledge sharing have become board level priorities. So it's Victor, not Stefan, sorry. CEO Victor Bubbly said in a statement, market opportunities like this do not come along often. And so they've obviously gone out to investors with the pitch that this is a huge market opportunity to go and capitalize on. Let's go and do that. They've just raised 200 million to kind of really like basically take the whole market of upskilling your workforce. And obviously like companies like Multiverse have been, I believe they're a unicorn. Multiverse, they're kind of like in that realm of trying to upskill workforces, and they made a shift towards AI. I don't actually know the details very much, but this is interesting. Basically, I think Synthesia are really like.
I wouldn't want to pigeonhole them as an upskilling only.
No, of course not.
It's like video generation.
This is like but that's how they're going to do it. That's the medium that they're going to go do it with.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting.
It's awesome. And Victor and Stefan are awesome guys. We were lucky enough. We had Victor on like one of our earlier shows. It might have been the first episode or the second episode. I can't remember which one. But we were lucky enough as well to do a jersey swap with them. I'm not sure if we still have that.
I believe it's...
have we moved it somewere?
Yeah, we've moved it somewhere.
Well, we have a Synthesia jersey. And I honestly think it's like...
We should have been waving the jersey.
Some sort of one of one.
Yeah.
Because we were so funny when we went to go get it. We went to go and chat with Stefan and do like a traded photo with Synthesia. And not that, they weren't prepared or anything, but there just wasn't... We hadn't let them know like we were going to trade something. We were bringing it with them to tell them like, hey, can we trade like, an ETN cap for... some Synthesia merch, like we do, like we've done with Stripe, like we've done with DeepMind, and they were like, yeah, sure. Like Stefan was so nice. He's like, yeah, sure. Like let me like find something. We had a little tour of the office around. We went into his own like private office, and he was just kind of digging through his personal stash like for us, and then gave us this jersey. And when I saw the jersey, I was like, no way, we getting that
in the
jersey.
Middle of it, having a signed Jensen Huang bottle
of Johnny Walker. Yeah, that was nuts. I was like, oh, you can just give us that signed bottle of Johnny Walker by Jensen Huang if you want. We did not get that. But look, it's amazing news.
That would be like right here.
And there was also, that would be right there. That would be, that'd be front and center. Actually, it'd be in my flat. But the cool thing about this round as well is that some of the earliest employees became cash millionaires.
Hey,
right?
let's go.
Which is huge. Which is, let's maybe play the money thing again for the cash millionaires.
For the Synthesia employees early into the deals. Let's go.
They've made a good bet. They're now cash millionaires. But it's so weirdly rare to see this in the UK. I think it's an amazing thing because this is money that's been created in the UK and will probably stay in the UK as well, right? There's just been like a bunch of like brand new millionaires minted from the, early employees at Synthesia. And like, we talk a lot on the show about growth and, how do we sort of bridge this gap and how do we like increase the quality of life generally for all people, right? And this is genuinely, in my opinion, such a key part of it. Like this is how we can raise the standard for everyone, building incredible companies that get incredible exits that like create and retain wealth for the UK.
Well, it's not even about the exits per se. It's like, more companies are staying private for longer, and therefore the opportunity for these companies to do secondary sales is just becoming higher. It's just more of a thing. And the fact Synthesia have done this, maybe we see other UK-based companies and European-based companies doing more of this and doing more secondary scale.
Well, I think 11 Labs did one as well. Actually,
they did.
I think when they did 6.6 billion valuation, that was based off I thought Notion just did a big one as well, actually.
Because they're not IPOing, so they have some form of like, I don't know, cash out for employees, incentivizes and kind of de-risks as well. Yeah, which is cool.
I don't know why. I don't know if I just maybe lack the knowledge to understand it a bit better, but like I don't know why in this current day and age, and this is like ironic because we're about to talk about not the next bit, but later in the show, we were about to talk about French company Ledger that will be IPOing. Well, the rumors of them IPOing in the US at 4 billion. But like, if I can just say before we move on to the next piece, is just like, I don't understand what the benefits to IPOing in these days really are. Like, I know it's a liquidity event. I know that like that's obviously a great thing, but if we're able to see, like traditionally, I think it was to reach a certain valuation in the early days, right? Like
I think it was because when you IPO, there was more chance of basically getting more money for the company, and now private rounds are so big, there just isn't necessarily a direct need.
I can't see it,
and so you might and therefore when you're staying private for longer, you don't have to go through the kind of all of the kind of necessary reporting and all of that kind of stuff, which obviously not to say that these companies are going to be shading anything, but it's just an admin thing that just basically doesn't need any time or as much time if you were private compared to being public. So I mean, I think that's basically it. It was the money, but now private rounds are so big.
Look at Stripe, nearly 100 billion valuation. OpenAI, I think obviously there's rumors of OpenAI, SpaceX, and Anthropic IPOing. I think in their case, like it kind of makes sense. Like specifically OpenAI's because they're heavily reliant on revenue to keep scaling. Even though they're doing, I think it was recorded at 20 billion ARR, they're still burning. I think it's more than that, like total a year. I think they're on like 1.2 billion MRR, between 1.2 billion and 1.8 billion MRR burn. And like SpaceX, for example, I think that would be an incredibly successful IPO. I think OpenAI would be an incredibly successful IPO, and I think Anthropic would be an incredibly successful IPO, but only because they own the mind share of the world. Anyone who's messing with the stock markets will know that. Like those companies, they will know them like not inside and out, but they will know of them and they will buy them at open on that opening day. Whereas like traditional SaaS right now, we were reading the article by Orlando, like I think he's the founder of Thoma Bravo, in the FT the other day about how SaaS stocks are in the toilet, like all of them are down, and like the debate is interesting because it's not. A lot of that will be speculation and fear mongering as opposed to like the barriers to entry to create software have fallen. Therefore, these traditional incumbents that their moat was nobody else could really build them and they're so big now. Like the barriers to entry to challenge these brands appears to be lower. In reality, I'm not sure it actually is, but the prices of those stocks seem to be reacting to that speculation, I think. But with that said, if they're still reacting to that speculation, your share price is still going down. Like the company, the employees that hold stock in those companies, it's still falling. Like the price every day you're watching your sort of little cash pile diminish. Whereas in these private companies, just raising like mammoth rounds. And if they are going to start introducing these quite consistent liquidity events in terms of secondaries or employee stock options and stuff, like why would you want to publicly list? Like you would publicly list to get funding or like to increase liquidity of your shares. If you can do that now privately, you can probably get similar amounts of funding anyway and get liquidity for your employees and take money off the table as you're scaling. Like I genuinely just can't understand what would be so attractive about it. We'll have to get someone on to maybe
Dan Gray. That'd be cool.
Dan Gray. Oh, let's get Dan Gray back on this show. God damn, he's a great guy.
Give some sauce. Shout out to Dan. He's probably watching.
I've put his Moneyball tweet in here. It's absolutely amazing.
He just replied with a GIF as well, which is hilarious.
What?
Moving.
Did you message him?
Yeah. Moving on.
Shout out to Dan Gray. Recently joined Odin as well with Paddy the Baddie.
Yeah, he did. He did. Spectre, be the reason your fund was the deal of the decade with Spectre. Go to tryspectre.com. Harness the power of live data and AI-driven analysis to outsmart the competition and make confident decisions in private markets. Go to tryspectre.com. Moving on to the DeepMind. Demis is saying it's bubble-like. Multi-billion-dollar seed rounds. He says multi-billion-dollar seed rounds in new startups that don't have a product or technology or anything yet do seem a little bit unstable.
I think that's a fair thing to say, Dennis.
Which is quite hilarious. He says, or the article says, venture capitalists have rushed to buy into groups such as former OpenAI executive Myra Marathe's Thinking Machines Labs, which we talked about a few weeks ago, which is valued at $10 billion just 6 months after it was founded, despite giving few details on what it's building. And I can't remember who it was, but they said once a few co-founders left, they said, oh yeah, I think Thinking Machines Lab could probably be bought for around, what was it, $4 to $6 billion.
$4 to $6 billion, yeah. Which is just ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous. I believe I am.
To be fair, that was just like a tweet in the ether. It wasn't like a legitimate publication. But with that said,
but I think obviously Demis has a very, very strong point. These rounds are getting higher. More companies are raising larger rounds. Anthropic recently announced that they are, or I think it was rumored that they're going to be raising $25 billion at a $350 billion valuation. A little bit smaller than OpenAI, but still a mammoth round, one of the biggest in history in private markets. It's bubble-like. As Demis is saying. He also says Google will be fine with the ads business if/when a correction happens. To quote him, he says, if the bubble bursts, we will be fine, he said. We've got an amazing business that we can add AI features to and get more productivity out of. If I was Demis, I'd be maybe going to sleep a little bit more happy than, say, a Sama.
If I was Demis,
Dario is definitely not going to sleep happy because of the article that he wrote.
Dario's in his bunker underground buying cans of corned beef and prepping for doomsday. Demis is chilling. You know, he's probably got probably got his dressing gown on.
I refrained from saying Demis is chilling because he can't be chilling. He's at the forefront of this thing.
Demis is also worried, right? We saw them when when they were at Davos, that him and Dario. I think Demis said this, not Dario, but I think they had a conversation, and Demis sort of agreed that if it was just Demis and Dario, then they would happily press pause on progress and try and understand the risk a bit more. They seem more.
Well, Dario's on the side that AGI is around 1 to 2 years away, whereas Demis is saying 5 to 10 years away, which again isn't actually that long.
True, but I mean, like, these things change all the time. So, like, I think that if we went back to, if we picked up the progress we have right now and the cool things you can do with AI right now, went back 5 years ago, or 5 years ago would probably be fair, 2021, I guess. I'm like, hey, look what this technology can do. Like, you'd be like, that's it, AGI right there.
Yeah,
like, this is insane. Well, like when Manus was released, with the recent acquisition from Meta at $2 billion, when they first released, I remember their first launch vid. The they opened access to a few. Now I'm thinking about it out loud. It's such an amazing GTM strategy. They opened early access to like a few like large.
I can
creators.
tell you used to work in GTM.
Yeah, I mean, just because like theirs just wiped. I was in charge of GTM at Convergence, and theirs just like wiped the floors with us. So I was just like learning a lot from them. But they
learning a lot from them by being punched in the face daily,
by just being annihilated every single day I wake up.
Hey.
But they opened up early access to a few, like a handful of like AI creators / people with large following who talk about AI, and all of them were like, "Oh, this is nuts. This is actually." I think Greg Eisenberg even tweeted out like something around
Greg Eisenberg is known for kind of playing the game playing the virality game, where a little bit of fear mongering here, there, and everywhere, a bit of.
Is that his thing?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, maybe he was clickbaiting, but that was long lines of like AGI's here. But like, the goalposts change. What I like about this is though, and I think I think it was maybe a couple apps back when the OpenAI narrative was slightly more dire. I think recently maybe it's kind of calmed down a little bit after their revenue numbers were put out at 20 billion. I don't know if they're correct or accurate or if that was like super official, but that number came out. But this was like during the code red, during the bailout, during the we're launching ads, like that sort of three concurrent sort of things, and then like Google Gemini's model came out. And we were saying on the show that I feel that if OpenAI was to go bust, like prior to all of that happening, it would almost be a black swan market ending. Like when DeepSeek released their model, they moved the whole of the S&P by like 4% in a day or something. Like if OpenAI
because OpenAI was the front runner and kind of the only one. I mean, now it's becoming there's a lot less just focus on OpenAI. I think that was the case for maybe 6 months to a year or so.
Yeah,
and now it's kind of spread out. Anthropic's model has got significantly better, but they're also because they were quite research focused in the early days. Same as DeepMind. Obviously, DeepMind have now released Gemini 3, which is performance levels is very similar, if not probably better in the next 3 to 6 months than OpenAI's models, unless they release another one. So yeah, it's less about OpenAI. If OpenAI dies, game over. The whole world goes to crap. It's now, we have some things to fall back on, which is nice.
Yeah, well, I just think like, but again, it doesn't matter anymore. Google's
you're not going to fall back. You're not falling back. You're, in my opinion, falling forwards to Gemini.
I think we're good. But I love that. If the bubble bursts, we'll be fine. He says, sat on his like throne made of ads revenue. You know what I mean? Like, what an amazing position that would be, just to be armed with all the money in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very sure that Demis could, if he wanted to, just go straight to C-suite and be like, I need another $1 trillion for this.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, yeah, cool, here you go. We saw, and also related to this, the tweet that I put out the other day on Demis and the offering of him rejecting the discussion around would he ever become the CEO of Google?
Yeah.
Or Alphabet, I think it was.
Would he ever become the CEO of Alphabet? No.
And he basically just like,
I'm happy.
No,
I'm happy doing this
because that wouldn't leave enough time for me to think. Like, that wouldn't leave enough time for me to like seriously just like sit down and think every day, which is one of the most like gangster like lines of all time. Like the CEO, I'm a CEO package at Google. I mean, I'm sure his package is great, but he's not in it for the money.
To be honest, he's not doing it for. Yeah, he's not doing it for the money.
Which makes it even more cool. Which makes it even more like he is my not new, but like he is my favorite AI superhero. I think now
he's my favorite AI guy.
Yeah, he's my favorite AI guy. I think he's awesome. But enough about that. Enough about Demis. Although we do love Demis.
We do love Demis.
Tell you we also love.
Do we love
Polymarket?
Yeah, we do.
It's the world's largest prediction market. So if you want to stay informed and profit from your knowledge, go to polymarket.com.
Indeed. Moving on, crypto unicorn Ledger preps a $4 billion IPO in the US. Reports have said, if we put up the article when you get a chance, Scopes reportedly tapped bankers at Goldman Sachs, Jefferies, and Barclays to work on the deal. French crypto unicorn Ledger is preparing for an IPO. At $4 billion, which is actually fairly small. The scale up has reported tapped. I keep repeating. These articles are really annoying because they repeat the same thing for like four lines.
Like heading and then
it's super annoying because the article is literally like not even 5 paragraphs. Anyway,
wait, at Daphne. At Daphne over there at Sifted. Daphne, Luke's got a problem with the way you're writing your articles.
These articles, they just keep repeating themselves.
Luke's
anyway,
got a problem
we'll go down
Sifted.
50% of the article. Ledger was last valued at $1.5 billion in 2023 when it raised a $108 million extension to its Series C, bringing total funding for the round to nearly $500 million. Since then, the company told Sifted the valuation had increased without specifying the exact number. Founded in 2014, Ledger builds hardware crypto wallets, physical devices that store the cryptographic keys needed by cryptocurrency owners to access their digital assets. The company says more than 20% of the world's crypto assets are currently protected through Ledger wallets. That's a wild stat.
That isn't that stat, isn't it? Yeah. I remember finding that stat when we had Charles on.
Yeah, Charles Guillemet.
Is that his second name?
Yeah.
Nice, well remembered. He was CTO, right?
CTO at Ledger.
Yeah. He was awesome. That was a great guest. We should get them back on.
Indeed.
And that came across that stat, and that is a nuts. When you think about like how much that is in terms of value, it's kind of crazy, right? Like that would be a great.
Hence why they're valued at $4 billion.
Like on their website, it should just say like
20%. Do you want to make it 21%?
I don't know what the total market is. I think it's got to be in the trillions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it has to be in the trillions. Yeah, that'd be an awesome.
The volume moving through these platforms is actually absolutely stark.
But it's weird to see that like, do they have another revenue stream, or is it just? Can you check if it's just like, is it only physical devices? Because I do find that quite crazy. Whatever their revenue numbers are, I'm not sure what they are. $4 billion valuation. If it's just. A Ledger is the go-to. I mean, the people in crypto will know this. Ledger is like, it's memeable almost. It's almost like a verb, like I'll Uber there. Like Ledger's like the filler word.
I'll use Ledger.
Like, yeah. It's just known. It's
is
just
it a
thing.
verb? Can you?
Well, I guess not a verb. More just like it's the thing that people store their crypto on.
So they do direct hardware sales. It's like the core of Ledger's business, generating significant revenue. So they have the Nano series, which we mentioned. No, they're probably not public with the numbers.
Yeah.
And then premium devices like the Ledger Stacks and Ledger Flex, and then just like the accessories like cases and all of that kind of stuff. Like the Ledger Crypto Steel. That's a pretty wicked case. Then they also have transactional and service fees. So Ledger's companion app, Ledger Live, has become a massive revenue engine by acting as an aggregator for third-party services. It allows you to like swap and exchange fees, takes staking commissions, and then like just direct like transaction fees. Then they have subscription services. So Ledger Recover, which is a paid optional subscription service provided by CoinCover. It allows users to back up their secret recovery phrase by fragmenting it and storing it with trusted third-party custodians, and then just support, which comes, I assume, with the subscription. Then Ledger Enterprise. TradeLink, a platform for off-exchange trading that helps institutions mitigate their counterparty risk. So they actually, instead of just B2B hardware sales, they have enterprise sales. Then they also have subscription services for their B2C customers.
Who are their enterprise
and
customers?
Transactional, which is pretty obvious, I guess, transactional.
Who would be an enterprise customer?
I assume just whoever's trading like on chain, no? Governance at custody.
Well, that would just be a consumer.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter how much size they're moving because it just fits in one.
They target banks, hedge funds, and major brands who move money like on chain.
Like we'll just be your crypto security company
exactly
for everything.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting.
There you go.
That's very interesting indeed. Yeah, we should try and get the founders on to the show to talk about this.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Ledger declined to comment at the bottom of the article.
Maybe they'll accept a comment with us. Anyway, moving on. In 1 minute, we have Lucy Squires. She is the brand director at Fixer. They've just done their
Used
rebrand.
to be Fixer AI.
Used to be Fixer AI, but now just Fixer. So we're going to chat to her about all things branding, which is always fun. Before we do that, Airwallex leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. They are absolute gangsters over there. They just celebrated their 10-year anniversary at their new office in London, which, by the way, is so nice. They have a McLaren.
What an awesome event that was.
They have a McLaren halo like on the wall in their office.
So like this bit.
This bit. But you know the halo it can hold like a bus. It's like that strong. It's made purely of carbon fiber. I don't know if reinforced carbon fiber is a thing, but like carbon fiber, and it's strong enough because obviously like it protects the driver.
Yeah,
it's
so
a safety
if they like
feature,
flip
right?
upside down or something.
It will not break.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty fun. Anyway, I believe we have Lucy in
coming into the
Can you
studio.
hear
We're
us?
just checking. Hello,
Yes,
hello.
we can
We're
hear
just
you.
checking with our producer if we can
We're waiting for the thumbs up.
on the stream.
Thumbs up.
We've got the thumbs
Good
up.
stuff. You are
we
live
are live.
on
I'm going to play
ETM.
some trumpets. Da, 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 da. Lucy is in the
Let's go.
house. Lucy is the brand director for Fixer. They've just done a massive rebrand and she's joining us here live in the studio. Lucy, how you doing?
Guys, what a pleasure it is to be here. Good morning. Good morning to everyone watching in, live and direct. Yeah, I'm really, really well, thanks. How are you both?
We're doing okay. We've had a good start to the day. We've got our trips. My microphone's caught on a part of my chair. We've got our trip drinks. We've got our Cano water, staying hydrated.
Been nice and hydrated. Wonderful.
As much
we love that.
as much as we can. Lucy, how we typically run these is we always ask our guests, who are you, what do you do, and where do you work?
My name's Lucy Squires. I'm the brand marketing director here at Fixer. For those who don't know Fixer, if you have a problem with email, get to know. We are the AI email assistant. We organize your emails so that you get to see just what you need to respond to. And then for those emails that need a response, we draft replies that match your tone of voice, knowing your context. The business is about 18 months old from launching. And in the last year, we've raised our Series A and Series B, bringing in over $40 million in funding. And last year we grew 3,000%. So had quite the year. And yeah, here to speak with you guys today because last week we launched our new brand, which was something that I was working on for the best part of last year.
Amazing stuff.
So huge. Yeah, I saw the rebrand and was like, okay, I want to know more about this. So I guess, yeah, I mean, first question
what's the reason?
Why do the rebrand?
Did you see the old brand?
I did. The green, it was green with like sort of handwriting style black text, right?
Yeah. When the businesses are growing so fast and your teams are so small because the growth of the business like outstrips the rate that you can hire at, the rate that you can like work on design or concept. You've got to be so selective of where you're putting your team's time. And we put all of our team's time into growing the product and bringing in new users. And where we got to, like we felt quite quickly at the end of Q1 last year was we've got this amazing product and that's not me just being biased. Our retention figures speak to that. Over 90% of our users still pay for Fixer 3 months later.
Nice.
So we've got this awesome product, but we don't think that the wrapper that we give it, the brand, does it justice. It didn't ensue trust or credibility as much as we wanted to do. Like we're a really serious player. Our motions are both prosumer. we've got thousands of new people trying Fixer every day, but we're also like an enterprise and SMB player. And so we needed a brand that spoke to the product quality across all of those audiences.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I was going to ask, and probably the question that I'm most interested about hearing an answer about is, when you have a product like Fixer, how like the market is kind of everyone. I mean everyone uses email, and the rebrand, as you kind of touched on briefly, you're trying to hit kind of all sides of that market. It's typical, business advice to kind of go down one niche, win a niche, and then expand later. Like, don't do things that don't scale type thing. What's your kind of take on that? On kind of where did you go at the beginning? What was the first like thing that you were trying to win, the kind of side of the market that you were trying to win, and then how did you kind of expand to kind of everyone? Because everyone uses email.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing to talk about, because this is like, if I've got one job here at this business, it is to make everybody as obsessed with our ICP as they possibly can, because we will only move at the speed that we will move if everyone's making decisions for the same person. And we have a really, really clear ICP. And that isn't everyone. Lots of people use email, but not everybody uses email like our ICP. And really what distinguishes this is our ICP, their reputation is built in their inbox. There's a direct correlation with how quickly they are replying to emails, and their personal success in their roles. Work really matters to these people. And so they have a constant fear of like missing an opportunity that comes up, of not following up in time. And it is those people that we build Fixer for. So we spent the first chunk of last year really, really getting to know very deeply the ICP, so that we could then build the brand and redesign the brand for that person.
That's awesome.
I like that.
I'd love to talk about your role, brand director. I feel that like this type of thing is becoming a lot more common nowadays, especially like the last year and a half. I'm seeing more startups hire. Videographer seems to be maybe the first hire within the first 10 employees. You would expect to maybe see a videographer around now. Designers are a lot more sort of sought after. Launch videos, a higher production quality. Like brand is back. I'm not sure when it came back, but it came back. So I love the fact that you have this role at Fixer AI. I'd love to know more about it specifically. What is a brand director at a Series B company?
Yeah. So number one, it's deeply, deeply understanding our ICPs, so that our product teams, our design teams, our growth teams are all building for that same person. So that's the core part of my job, is that insights house. And then like bringing that to life in quite a fun way. So like everyone's got quite a vivid view of who this person is internally. And then only when you can like understand that person really deeply, can you then think about what are the stories that you need to tell and the experiences we need to create that are going to drive the actions that we need from that ICP. So that's like the core part, which mainly is on our like acquisition and enterprise and SMB motions. What you guys might also be touching on is the other side of our comms, which is more related to how we can keep our company brand awareness afloat, with growing at the speed that we're growing. Like, it is also really important that industry commentators like yourselves, journalists, VCs, all know who we are and like have confidence in our sticky revenue. And to do that, we have a series called Building Fixer, where every week we share a vlog of like the real-time things that are happening in the company that week. And we have to do that because of the rate that we're growing. Maybe 10 years ago, when it would take best part of 10 years to get to the revenue size that Fixer is at now, which would still be an awesome feat to do that. The natural awareness of your company within that audience has time to kind of organically build. We don't have that luxury. We've got to invest in building awareness with that space. And it's like pretty fun to like open the doors to the office, and for people to see the real happenings, which I think, like, particularly for an AI company, we really want to show the human side and the talent that work here really hard day in, day out to like create the product experiences that we do.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the kind of AI to human like element of like, there's a lot of conversation about that like nowadays, especially. I want to ask, I guess, quite a general question, but more about your take on where you think a brand is going with, you know, the world of AI and all of that kind of stuff, and how important you think the kind of human side of businesses is to both like B2C, but then also like enterprise customers looking in like at a business like Fixer.
Such a big question. So much I want to unpack there. Okay, maybe I'll start with brand. Why is brand so important? When anybody can spin up a product or a business in now 30 minutes, like the value of that decreases, and therefore what consumers are looking for is like other trust markers, and trust markers are longevity or familiarity, and that is given by brand and by reliability. Yeah. And so that's why thoughtfulness, but not just the brand itself, but the whole of UX is so paramount now. And that's why I think, you know, every time I open my LinkedIn, I'm seeing posts around brand is moat. Like, brand's always been moat, but brand is a bigger moat now more than ever because of the speed of product development. And then the part on humans, we are really clear at Fixer, like, our product exists to make humans like the better version of themselves. Like, that sounds really woolly, but really our company mission is to remove the admin burden from hardworking professionals so that they can achieve more. What I love about that is it's rooted in the belief of unlocking human ambition. And that's really nice. And we do that through our product. We have an awesome product team that have built great AI models, but we also have one of Europe's biggest human data annotation teams. So you can't separate out like machines away from humans. Like, the best machines are made with humans, and we can use machines to get the best and unlock the best out of humans. And we hope that came through with the brand redesign. Actually, you can see that some of our core brand properties, called the dog ear, which is a folded corner of a paper or a highlighter, we've brought in traditional ways that humans have always brought order to chaos into our digital realm.
I love the first part of that answer the most, to be honest. The we spoke about this a lot on the show. It resonates with so much, like so many of the conversations we're having, in terms of like, as the barriers to entry to create generally fall, trust kind of falls with that, right? Authenticity falls with that, like a sense of belonging falls with that, a sense of community, like whatever it is. And I think you've summed it up there, probably the best we've ever had on the show, if I'm honest. It's the trust piece, right? Like, that erodes away as we see, so, you know, as we kind of democratize this ability to create software. That's such an awesome take, and it rings so true with the Wall Street Journal. I know when we spoke last night, super briefly, just about today, like the Wall Street Journal article came up about storytellers wanted, you know, Vanta paying $275,000 for this sort of storytelling role. But it's like, I guess you're right. It's like it's not back. It never went away. It's just now we see that it's a lot easier to create, so more things are out there, and just, I guess, the density of trust overall is just kind of not gone, but it's definitely fallen per thing created, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of, I gave product as an example, but we could also say creative. You can spin up a video ad in seconds using AI tools, which the quality of that really fluctuates, but also the volume of creative that people are seeing on their feeds is also a bit higher than it ever was before. Therefore, to cut through, you've got to create a memorable experience, and that association that someone has with your brand is built up through lots and lots and lots of interactions. And so that level of thoughtfulness has to come through product experience and content creation.
Yeah. Sorry, it's jumping again, but can I ask, like, Luke and I will probably think of a rebrand at some point, maybe soon, maybe not, I'm not sure, but like, what advice can you give us? How can we structure the best rebrand if we were to move up enterprise, right? How can any company structure a rebrand that allows them to go? Because it's a massive, like, almost multi-million-dollar question that a lot of these Series A and maybe B sort of level startups are facing. Like, they have to rebrand when they go to enterprise because they have to invoke trust.
Yeah, I think we could have a whole episode on all of my learnings from this rebrand experience, because it was huge. And I'm so proud of how we did it, from the time that all of the founders invested in. Like, that's probably my number one thing. If you want to do this properly, your most valuable resource is your time, and you've got to invest that consistently. It took us 6 months from appointing the agency to the launch, and parts of that, the founders were giving a couple of hours every week, which is like a huge investment of their time, through to then choosing the right partner. Do you go agency? Do you go freelance? The third is, like, when is the right time to do it? We did it after deeply understanding our ICP, having found product market fit, so that we know there's a lot of strategy and insight and data behind the decisions that we made. And then kind of going from theory to execution, it took us 5 months of working with the smallest group of just the co-founders, me and the COO and the agency. Nobody else in the organization saw any of the work, so that we could kind of keep it, so that we could move at pace, and wanted to be kind of as single-minded as possible. So 5 months of that small group, and then 1 month of where we brought the rest of the organization in, and for them to then take that and execute our work across their areas of ownership, whether that's product or ads. And I'm so impressed with how our team, the receptivity of our team in that time, understanding the decisions that we made and then taking ownership of it. And the result is we've been live with a rebrand for a week, and our conversion rate metrics are either flat or up, which is unheard of. Every podcast you listen to, you'll hear that when you rebrand, it's going to mess up the company, everyone's going to hate it, there's going to be infighting, and CBR is going to tank. We've achieved none of that. We flipped all the expectations. So really proud of the whole Fixer gang for that.
So awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we just mentioned the Jaguar one. I think a stat came out after that. It was down, annual sales that year were down 88% or something, which is nuts. So the fact that it was positive, not even flat, is absolutely awesome. It's so cool.
Yeah, congrats to you and the team.
Yeah, well, let's do a manual clap for that. We have a non-manual clap as well, but this is, manual clap is a lot better than non-manual clap. Well, what can we look forward to from Fixer for this year? Anything you can drop? Any leaks? Any goss?
We are continuing to invest really heavily in product, and probably the only hint I will give to there is we are really good for teams, but we're going to get even better for teams.
Interesting. Okay. Maybe a little teaser for us. I like that. It's nice to have a heads up of when things are coming out. Then we can prepare our breaking news for this type of stuff. Really cool. Really
Good
cool.
fun.
Well, look, we're coming up to the end of the interview. Is there anything that we can plug, that we can shill? Where can we send our viewers, our listeners?
Yes.
More than welcome to shill away.
If you're somebody who is drowning in email, then go and try Fixer at fixer.com. You can try for free. The setup is really straightforward. It takes kind of less than 30 seconds and works straight away. And I would love to hear what you think.
Awesome stuff. You heard it here, folks. Fixer, go and sort your emails out. Go sort your inbox out.
Good stuff. Thank you so much, Lucy. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much for joining us. It's been so fun.
Good stuff. Just a quick word from Airwallex. Leave outdated business banking behind. The all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. Next on the show, in 2 minutes, we have Callum Woodcock. He's the CEO of Wineify. It's kind of like syndicate structure allows investors to co-invest in diversified, expertly curated collections of world-class fine wines. They've done an incredible job. Their company is doing 100% year-over-year growth. Wine markets are up again, which is interesting.
Wine's through the roof.
Bits about that.
Are you a wine drinker?
I'm a wine drinker. These guys don't really drink their fine wines. That they like. Normally, it's you buy a fine wine, I guess, like it's an investment for Wineify.
Yeah. No, I'm
stored in bond.
I know the guys aren't getting crunk inside, just like knocking back all of their
investments,
their business. Yeah, like literally drinking their own business. But no, are you a wine guy in general? Did you?
Yeah.
I don't like red wine.
Hence why I want Callum on the show.
And here he is.
There you go. Oh, yeah, there he is.
We're just, I think we're just checking with our producer so our viewers can see you. We can see you because we've got a little mini screen, but we're just
there
seeing
Callum Woodcock is live on ETN. How's it going, Callum?
We're live and direct.
I'm very well, thank you, gents. So I'm visible now to your viewers.
Everyone can see you, and I'm
live.
going to play the trumpets just to announce you through the door. Callum Woodcock, CEO of Wineify, everybody. Welcome to the stream.
It's fantastic to be here. I've been a long time, or as long as I could have been, follower of the show. So what an honour, gents.
No, Nate, the honour is all ours. Thank you as well for if we can just get this up again, actually. Sabre. For those who haven't seen, a trade deal was commenced between Wineify and ETN, and we were lucky enough to receive a Sabre, which you can see here on the stream. Can we do like the solo shot of maybe me? We can just flick to that just so we can get this, just so the viewers know, what Callum is about and the business that he's bringing.
Fun times. Look at that. Very shiny.
This is what Wineify are standing on right now. This is business.
Indeed. While we're in
massive blade.
We've got the most aggressive kind of stash or like merch out of any startup that he'd worked with, and I think that summarizes it very well.
Well, mate, when Luke came back from your meeting and he brought this, I was surprised he wasn't arrested on the streets of London. It's a bloody Rambo now.
It's genuinely an occupational hazard. I understand that in London the rule is there has to be a justification if you have like a deadly weapon with you. So if
I
you're
own a
fishing,
tech podcast.
like
Is that?
That's a justification. So in your case, you've got 2 bottles of Bollinger there.
Justification enough. Anyway, moving on. It's probably worth an explanation about Wineify and what you guys are doing to our audience, and then we can jump into some questions that we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. So just very briefly, Wineify is a next generation platform for investing in fine wine. We make it very seamless and cost effective for investors to gain diversified exposure to fine wine as an asset class. So to put that in perspective, historically, the only way to invest in wine was to buy the individual bottles themselves outright. That's a very expensive way of doing it, clearly. And what we have done is create a syndicate structure that allows investors to co-invest with multiple other investors from as little as £3,000. So a fraction of the cost of owning that whole portfolio outright. And we've also introduced quantitative analysis to the space for the very first time. So wine is unique amongst collectibles in that there is real-time trading data going back 25 years. And what we have done is to analyze that data and train machine learning models on it to identify wines that are most likely to outperform the broader market. So we're really looking to professionalize wine as an asset class and also to allow more people to access it. So it's very exciting. But yeah, that's just a quick overview.
Good stuff. I mean,
that's fascinating.
The one thing that like Wineify is so different compared to everyone else kind of playing in this kind of sphere is the fact that you guys are so data focused and like analytical. Can you kind of give a little bit more about that when you were founding Wineify? What was the kind of the single thing that you were kind of gearing towards? Was it that data like analytics, or were you like, okay, I want more people investing in wines. There isn't much kind of transparency about it. What's the way to go and do it? Were there hurdles to kind of jump over, or what's the story?
Hugely. It's a great question, because I think, we started WineFi in many ways to solve our own problems. So a really selfish business in many ways, which is like
the best.
Wine has some really interesting characteristics as an asset class. So just to give you an idea, on average, the LiveX 1000, which is the broadest measure of the investment grade wine market, has outperformed, at various different points in its life cycle, the S&P 500, but consistently outperformed the FTSE 100, for example, and many other mainstream bond, equity, and commodities indices. And in the UK, and this is a big thing, it is capital gains tax exempt. So we thought this is fantastic. If there was only a structure that allowed us to, gain diversified exposure, so you hedge your risk across multiple wines effectively, rather than having to spend 50K minimum to build a diversified portfolio, this could be fantastic. And there's a bit of an issue there, because if you put wine into a fund, the capital gains tax benefits don't carry through. You're taxed as if it's a security, which was a huge headache for us, as you can imagine, because we were thinking, okay, how else can we structure this investment product? And it was really only when we started looking at a syndicate structure, which allows investors to directly own the wine outright, but just to co-invest together through what's called a UK Bear Trust nominee, did we find a solution. And it's interesting that you mentioned the data models, because I agree, that's really what we've become famous for, or at least within our little space, famous for. But actually, I think we built them out of insecurity. We assumed that everyone else had them. So we leant really hard into the data side very early. And it was only really when we were interviewing for our head of investment. So we ended up hiring Matthew Small, who is our current head of investment. And I interviewed the so-called heads of investment from various different wine merchants and various like legacy wine investment businesses. Did we realize that actually everyone was kind of proverbially swimming naked? All of them were kind of conducting the same data analysis. They were using the same outdated methodology that, coming from a professional asset management background, you would think is incredibly Luddite. And we sort of went, oh, wow. It's like, in the Cold War, where the Americans were building all of these like crazy weapons because they thought the Russians had them, but it turns out the Russians were lying about the weapons. Like, in a wine data context, that is what happened with us. So it's become a USP, but it wasn't like the intended USP to begin with. But I'm very glad that we did make that decision, because it's allowed us to outperform the market.
That's such a cool. That's such a cool story as to why, and it sounds like it's been wildly successful, right? But I love how it's born out of.
We beat the market, and that's the key thing. Like, if you could beat the market as an asset manager, you are doing objectively a good job.
Very well. Yeah, absolutely. So what you mentioned earlier is like this quantitative sort of approach to wine investing, and all the data that you mentioned. How can a user? What is it? Like, what does that mean in practice, right? Like, I want to invest in wine. I come to you guys. How does that workflow look?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we want the experience of investing to be very simple. So all of our syndicates are on a deal by deal basis. They work in the exact same way that an angel syndicate would. So we present an investment opportunity. We provide the rationale around that opportunity, and then we allow individual investors to make a decision as to whether or not they want to participate. So, we will show the data, we'll show, as I said, the rationale behind that particular syndicate. And then we make it very easy for investors to get involved. So we have a platform that allows them to sign up, invest from as little as £2,000 or £3,000. And then they can track the performance of the portfolio in real time on our platform. So in the same way that you would, you'd track your Hargreaves Lansdown ISA or whatever on an app. And then in terms of the data models themselves, we have two. So the first data model looks at, it gives what we call a WIS, so a Wineify investment score, to every wine. So it's effectively, how investment worthy is a particular wine. And then we have a second model that will look at the price at which we should be purchasing that wine. And we've structured our revenue model, for example, to align our interests with our customers. So when we actually go out to market to source those wines on their behalf after the syndicate has raised capital, we are only buying wines at prices we are willing to, that we think are reasonable, because we never want to end up in a solution where, we feel like we are overpaying for a certain wine, or that wine is like overvalued. So we kind of take, I guess, like a value investment approach to wine. But the other thing is that we share all of this data publicly. So we release a quarterly report. We talk about, which wines we think are, most investment worthy, because there are a subset of people that will follow us and still conduct their own investment. For them, wine is purely a passion. They want to invest in it themselves. They don't want to necessarily go through a structured investment product like ours. And that's fine. It's kind of a credibility enhancer for us. So, our objective is for those that want to come directly to us, we make it as seamless as possible, and as cost efficient as possible. But then we also share that knowledge more broadly to allow, people to make their own decisions. And I think that has given us a bit of credibility, because we're not just saying like, wine investing is hard, let us do it for you. We're saying like, here's all the information, you can then make an informed decision.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a broad question about like passion assets in general. Obviously, wine is semi different because it's a consumable, so it's not, as you mentioned, not CGT. In the UK anyway, it's CGT exempt. But I don't think a car is CGT exempt, and like paintings and stuff, because they're not consumable unless you're a weirdo and you eat cars. But what's the what's generally like is there a lot of interest about passion assets nowadays, or is it what's the kind of take there, I guess?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's an interesting one. I mean, the big benefit of passion assets is that they behave like equities in many cases, in terms of the type of return profile is equivalent to many mainstream equity indices, but they are true diversifiers. So wine displays a very, very low correlation to mainstream asset classes, and that attracts a lot of more sophisticated investors to it. And then obviously you have the CGT benefit. I think the downside is that it's unregulated, and that attracts bad actors to the market, but it also puts off some professional investors from participating. So we do a lot of work with multifamily offices, but it will always be what's called their non-discretionary or non-advisory spend, which is they will have a family that they advise, and they know that a member of that family is very into wine, and they'll make an intro for them to go direct to us. It won't be the family office directly investing. So I think that's one of the characteristics of the market. But one thing that we have noticed, and this isn't just WineFi propaganda, is for the first time some of the big investment banks have started including collectibles in their broader alternative asset reports. So there was one recently by Nomura, where they have collectibles, so whiskey, wine, art, classic cars, alongside private credit, private equity, and real assets, which I thought was pretty mad, to be honest. Great for us, but it's amazing how far it's come. And I think that really it comes down to that correlation piece. And then the final thing is the coming technology. So tokenization, everyone's heard of it, everyone's talking about it. But where it becomes especially useful is in non-yielding assets that have historically required a high upfront investment. So wine is one of them, whiskey is one of them, classic cars is one of them. So you can, one, fractionalize, but two, every asset that can be made tradable and that appreciates over time will be made tradable. So I think that there does appear to be this like move towards what we're calling internally like the stock market of everything. Once tokenization becomes to the forefront, suddenly anything that appreciates in value, whether that's Lego or wine or handbags, whatever it might be, suddenly becomes something that could be a true asset class. So, I think that we have got a tailwind here, which is great.
That's so cool. I want to ask like a question about more specifically about the wine itself. I mean, when you came to the show, I was saying I'm not a wine guy. I don't drink red wine. I like white wine, but like I don't know what a good wine is. You could give me like a £3 wine in a £100 glass, and like I probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But what makes a wine like super expensive? Like you've probably come across some crazily expensive bottles of wine. Like why specifically? Like what makes that wine so costly?
Yeah. So I think a really good example would be Domaine della Romanée-Conti, which is a producer based in Burgundy, and their flagship wines, their Grand Cru, is called Romanée-Conti, and it's grown on a very small parcel of land, and they only produce 500 cases in a vintage, and this is regarded as like ultra high quality. So obviously the quality is important, but it's a lot more about the brand name, almost in the same way that, you know, someone could design the best watch ever, but potentially will still outsell them because people associate that name with quality. And I'm using an extreme example here because, you know, many of your audience won't necessarily know anything about wine investing. But DRC, you know, just to give you an idea, so they only produce, as I said, 500 cases, so 12 bottle cases in a vintage. And it's so sought after that people literally camp in the snow for weeks in somewhere like Norway, where the government has a monopoly on alcohol, in order to get their hands on a bottle, and a bottle would cost £20,000. So you know, it's insane, but it sits at this like passion asset point. And when I was raising for the business, I got an insight into this firsthand. So just very anecdotally, but one of our initial investors invited me round. So he's a big wine collector. Invited me round for a barbecue while we were midway through our funding round, and I thought, great, you know, let's go and see this investor's wine cellar. And he had a bottle of DRC that was, I don't know, 45k or something. And I was chatting to him, and you know, we'd had a few glasses of wine by that point, and I felt like I was getting to know him. And I just said, at what point do you open a 45k bottle of wine? And he thought about it, and he said, Callum, I've been married 3 times. I've been divorced 3 times. I've got 6 kids. All of them have turned 18 and turned 21. And I've never found an excuse to open a 45k bottle of wine. What you want to hear, right? So I think a lot of it's about scarcity. A lot of it's about prestige. But I think there is also that kind of, you know, that desire to collect things. I think it's like rich person Pokemon cards. You know, it's collectibles in general, I think, fit in that space. And, you know, it's a passion. But I think there are a number of different elements that come together to make it exciting for people.
That's so interesting. Were you sat at that dinner thinking that maybe that night was the night?
I thought you were gonna say he was gonna turn around and be like, maybe now is the time.
Yeah. Right now.
It was also it was worth more than the actual investment he put into WineFi as well. So
that's hilarious.
You wouldn't want to just burn 45k and then put in less. That is so funny.
That's cool.
That's so nuts.
I wanted to ask a few questions about the wine markets. You guys posted something on LinkedIn, and I want to talk actually a bit about LinkedIn as well, and your kind of personal brand that you built on there. But you guys posted on LinkedIn that the wine markets have gone up in a strange kind of turn of events, I guess, because they've been down for quite a few years. Maybe talk a little bit about that and how like WineFi is going to obviously like capitalize on it and what you guys are going to do for 26, you know, off the back of this kind of news.
Yeah, absolutely. So we probably started the business that we started at maybe the worst ever time. So to put this in perspective, lockdown during COVID saw the wine markets and also other collectibles markets reach all-time highs. So October 2022 was the peak of the wine market. And that was driven by a number of different things. Rock bottom interest rates, you know, people are more likely to gravitate towards risk assets, you know, whether that's venture capital or whether it's fine wine. You know, wine behaves, you know, structurally the same. But also it was driven by the fact that people couldn't go out. So if you're into wine, you know, you're a wine collector, it's your hobby, it's a good opportunity for you to top up your cellar. And people are sitting at home, they're looking at they're online and they're buying these bottles of wine. And also people are drinking more. And ultimately someone has to want to drink the wine, when it's at the peak of its drinking window for it to be worth anything. And then lockdown ended. There was a lot of geopolitical uncertainty. So, the war in Ukraine, various other different, geopolitical tensions, and everyone sort of tightened their belts a little bit. Normal life resumed in some ways. And, the COVID bubble was undoubtedly a bubble. It was the peak of the wine market ever. And people have been drinking wine for 6,000 years. But it was also just like, it was clearly crazy. So to put that in perspective, the LiveX, which is the leading exchange for the wine markets, they have a number of different indices. So, I mentioned the LiveX 1000 earlier, which is a bit like the FTSE All Share. They've got the LiveX 100, which is like the FTSE 100. But they have regional indices as well. And Burgundy is a big wine region. So they have an index called the Burgundy 150. And that was outperforming the NASDAQ by 30%. And wine, remember, doesn't pay a yield. It's like, that was clearly, a market anomaly. So the market then corrected, helpfully for us, because we went to market in October 2023. So the year after all-time highs, for 33 months in a row. So the longest bear market ever experienced in wine. And from about Q3 last year, the markets are now starting to recover. So, we are seeing a return to growth. It's probably too early to call it a bull market, but they aren't in decline in the same way that they were. And this actually presents a pretty interesting opportunity for us, because it allows us to buy wines at a very significant discount to their all-time highs. So, we are really, really leaning into the marketing side now. We've just hired a full-time head of growth, really to advertise this opportunity. I think if an investor is looking to enter the market, there's a pretty strong argument now is quite a good time. We would be pilloried if we called the bottom and got it wrong, but 6 months of, sustained improving market conditions, I think is a pretty good indicator.
Yeah. I know we're on time. Can we ask one more question? Can I ask one more question? Sure. Is that all right?
Yeah.
So, you just mentioned that you just hired a head of growth. Marketing is like a thing that you are like kind of doubling down on for now. Historically, since you started the business, a lot of the inbound has come from your personal LinkedIn. And I wanted to ask about how you want the kind of like growth of the business to kind of, I guess, shift away from that. Do you want it to shift away? What's the kind of like thought behind, that being the audience and the kind of lead generator to now you're going more into kind of just general marketing, I guess. What's I'm interested.
It's a great question, because it does feel like a bit of a teething problem. So I appreciate I'm probably the noisiest and most annoying out of the team on LinkedIn, but all of the team post quite regularly. Mm-hmm. And I think that, what that means, and because such a considerable amount of our inbound inquiries come via LinkedIn or come from people that have seen us on LinkedIn, it means that there's a higher degree of trust from those people. They feel like, and maybe they do know myself or Ollie or Matt or Aaron, whatever member of the team is posting that they follow. And to give you an example, we've just started running meta ads for the first time, and people coming through that funnel are completely cold. They don't know who Winefy is. They don't care who I am or any other member of the team is. And so the way that we approach those clients, you have to start from a much kind of higher trust position or a lower trust position in some way. So, you need to really gently bring them into the funnel. Whereas what we've found and where I think we've got quite lucky is, if you're posting on LinkedIn every day, someone follows you along and they go, oh yeah, those are the wine guys. They kind of have an understanding of the business, but they also feel like they know you and therefore trust you. And so I think a big learning for us has been the difference. It sounds obvious, but the difference between how we promote that audience, which is kind of lukewarm, and how we would approach an entirely cold audience. And that's going to be an awkward adolescent phase, I imagine, but ultimately that's what is required in order to grow the business from the position that we're in now.
Yeah.
So interesting.
That's awesome.
Awesome stuff. Is there anywhere we can send anyone who's interested in wine investing?
Can we shill?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, please shill away. So www.winefy.co is our website. Please do feel free to get in touch. If you want to reach out to me directly, my address is callum@winefy.co, and that's Callum with 2 L's. Spelt the way God intended. Just 1 L nonsense.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. And
thanks, gents.
Wicked
Great work.
Cheers, Callum.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Right.
Ciao.
Amazing stuff. That's Callum from Winefy. Just a quick
That was
word
awesome.
from Airwallex. Leave outdated business banking behind with
Leave it
Airwallex,
behind, yeah.
the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate accounts, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. Amazing stuff. Next on the show, we have friend of the stream, Max Buchan. He's the founder and CEO of Valerian. Their primary mission is digital sovereignty.
Digital sovereignty. What's the intro on the site again? It's engineered for enterprise, ardent for the front lines. So good. We're going to be chatting a little bit about Greenland with Max as well, which is going to be really fun. We're going to get I would say a pretty professional take.
We're going to get a TLDR of how they might be shaping up.
On what's going on. I saw a really funny tweet about the Greenland. For those who don't know what's happening with Greenland, Trump is trying to buy it. It even got to the point where he's offering stimulus checks in a way like up to $100,000 to each individual of Greenland. And there's been a bit of back and forth on this in terms of like NATO and why they're responding, mainly because you can't just buy a country, sorry. It doesn't really work like that. Then there was threats of maybe taking it with force. It's obviously made global headlines. I did see a really funny tweet though about it, and it was like, I think it was the UK had sent, like, it was like, UK sends soldier, like they needed like a soldier or two or a spokesperson from like multiple countries to come and just like sort of be there and talk around. But the headline that sort of got out was like, UK sends soldier to Greenland. Like after the threats of like, the US can possibly take it by force. And like someone was like, oh, he's that guy. Like he's like how am I forgetting his name? The guy, his dog gets killed and he goes on a rampage.
Oh, John Wick.
Yeah. It's John Wick, mate. It's John Wick. But someone quoted it like, "We've got boot on the ground," instead of boots.
Twitter's a magical place.
Look, I'm sure Max Buchan will give a much better description and rundown of the current state of geopolitical affairs than I can, reading from memes on Twitter.
Indeed.
But yeah, we're also going to catch up about Valerian, of course, and what they've been up to since we last spoke, which is going to be really, really fun. But that's not for another 4 minutes. So whilst we wait, why don't we take a jump into the Anthropic, into Dario's?
Yes. Let's do
Dario's
it.
warning.
So an FT article was posted this morning, and the headline is "Humanity needs to wake up to dangers of AI," says Anthropic chief. He wrote, I think it was a 15,000 word essay, not 20,000, but we'll see. Humanity needs to wake up to potentially catastrophic risks posed by powerful AI systems in the years to come, according to Anthropic boss Dario Amadei, whose company is among those pushing the frontiers of the technology. In a 20,000 word essay posted on Monday, Amadei sketched out the risks that could emerge if the technology develops unchecked, ranging from large-scale job losses to bioterrorism. In the article, there's a quote that says that he wrote, "Humanity is about to be handed almost unimaginable power, and it is deeply unclear whether our social, political, and technological systems possess the maturity to wield it." Sounding like he's Thanos. Mad, what's your take? First off,
it's very doomsday.
It really is. Isn't it?
I do feel that the listening more to Demis and Dario has kind of, I was very much in the bucket of like, no, let's just come on, let's just like pour loads of money into this thing and scale it and just go crazy with it and just see what happens. Right? This is really cool. We can't afford to slow down.
Yeah.
Which I think is important to have some sort of like overly progressive take on this. I think sometimes that is very necessary. However, listening to Dario and Demis, two of maybe 4 or
the front runners,
5 people globally who have sort of walked the walk and talked the talk a little bit.
Yeah.
More than your average individual. I do think when they speak, we should listen, obviously, and I do feel that I'm now becoming slightly more cautious as to the possibilities of this in the long term. Not from like a doomer approach, but like it does look like, I think that in terms of the biological stuff, he says the word biological terrorism, right?
Yeah, bioterrorism.
I was listening to an interview with Demis, and he was awarded the Nobel Prize in chemistry for his work with AlphaFold, which we've discussed about before on the show. But also he says look, that's a good example of the amazing good that you could do. But in terms of the bioterrorism piece, like that, to make the influx of that, you could sort of just map out all of the most harmful ones in the world in a way, like the harmful, not sort of proteins, but the most harmful sort of like biological diseases or whatever out there, and use that as a weapon. Like it could be done with AI in the same
you can flip whatever's equally good, you can flip it equally as a bad thing.
Which
for
is,
sure. Well, for me, it makes it it makes me feel privileged that we have someone like Demis at the front line, in the frontier of something like AI, which is obviously like a world-changing thing, and the fact that he's at the front line and basically kind of choosing the fate of like humanity in some respects, like is obviously a good person to be there. Yeah. He says, he mentions there's a few more bits about
this line
about
is
it.
Crazy that a disturbed loner can perpetrate a school shooting, but probably can't build a nuclear weapon or release a plague. Will now be elevated to the capability of a PhD virologist, wrote Amadou.
Indeed. We will continue to talk about that, but I believe we have Max in the studio. Max, can you hear us?
We've got Max.
Yes, we can. We're just waiting for a thumbs up from our producer. Amazing. Max is live on ETN.
It's already come. Max, I got to hit these. I'm sorry, Max. I just got to hit them. Max Buchan, the trumpets are playing. We have you back on the show for the second time. We are ecstatic. We've just been talking about why you're coming on. Maybe just, people already know who you are, but maybe for the viewers, we've got a few more new ones since we last spoke. Maybe who you are, what do you do, what is Valerian, and then we'd love to dig into some more geopolitical sort of based topics.
Yeah, the world's become increasingly interesting since we last spoke.
Indeed.
Yeah, great to see you guys. So I'm Max Buck and I run a company called Valerian. We're a dual purpose digital infrastructure company. We kind of essentially create the ability to make secure virtualized enclaves for running subsystems. We say dual purpose, we're mainly in defense right now. We've got a building enterprise business, but we are 90% in defense at the moment.
Boom. Love that. Very easy. You guys made a shift towards like sovereignty and like autonomy for kind of nations. That's probably why you're like, you are the go-to person for us to kind of talk more about, this whole Greenland story. I wanted to ask specifically, how is kind of Valerian, is Valerian, kind of involved in any way, shape or form, or how does it actually work with your company and your position in defense specifically?
So not in Greenland, nothing specifically around that, but I think in terms of like the narrative arc, it's interesting because when I started Valerian, the thesis was around, I think I told you this guys before, but it was around, look, I lived through Brexit here in the UK, we've got the fight for Ukraine. We had, frankly, Hong Kong seized 20 years earlier than anyone anticipated, and now the impending fight probably for Taiwan. So for me, it was this move toward physical sovereignty. It felt like the next frontier would be digital sovereignty. At the time, we were living in this mass era of globalization, and everyone told me there was going to be one server in America, one server in Europe, one server in Asia, and everything would be fine. Since then, you've had this kind of deconstruction, you've had this mass deglobalization happening. So I think these are all facets of probably a wider story. But yeah, we made a really contrarian bet, like, 4 or 5 years ago when we started building the technology. But it's interesting. Obviously, it's very challenging at the moment. But yeah, it's put us in a quite an interesting place as a business, because obviously this is what we lean into and this is what we do.
And with regards to Greenland, like, just to ask, I'd love to get, like, I know I've been following it just vaguely along, right? And this, I do feel that it's catalyzed, not that this wasn't happening before, this was already happening. I think the Ukraine war catalyzed a desire to be more sovereign in general, I think, like for all nations, including like everyone within the European Union and also the UK. This seems to be getting the need for sovereignty, especially tech sovereignty as well, has been making headlines recently, is becoming increasingly like sort of required or being discussed at a sort of very high political level. Why? It seems to me that it's kind of Trump does a thing and then sovereignty is then back in the headlines again, and everyone needs to be more sovereign and we all need to be like, what's going on with, is Greenland catalyzing this again, or is it just a follow on from what we've had previously, or?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, it came on the heels of Venezuela having just happened as well, right, within the last kind of prior 10 days or 2 weeks. And for me, that was a really interesting kind of like intellectual foundation that was put by kind of Trump's administration, which was, we cannot allow in our hemisphere, a country that exists on these principles, right, i.e. a communist country. Obviously, that, for me, gives leeway to China to be like, well, we can't allow a democratic state to live in our hemisphere, which is just that. So we're putting a lot of kind of like, we're predicating a lot of notions right now that could lead to a lot of other stuff, which just generally makes me nervous. I think when it comes to the second piece there about kind of sovereignty, absolutely. I think it's for the first time, it's really had us question a world in which we cannot depend on the US for everything. And I think that comes in two guises. One is which there's neutrality, so the US just doesn't care, like the Brits can get on with it. Obviously, if they were antagonistic, that's a completely different conversation and quite a scary conversation to have. I mean, everything from our country's like nuclear prowess is dependent on the US, right? So we could get into a massive rabbit hole of what that means. I think for me, just on the sovereignty point, we've got to be really clear about what we mean by sovereignty, right? Because, for instance, in digital sovereignty, you can't recreate the entire stack, right? Even down to like when I write a line of code and commit it to GitHub, we're not going to recreate a British version of GitHub. So we've got to be really clear on where we want to draw the line. For me, like when we talk about the Ministry of Defence, UK intelligence data, a lot of that really rich stuff, I think we need to be really, really careful where that's going. But the last point I just want to make on this is, for me, it's so tied into the story of economic growth as well. Because when we talk about, when I started talking about sovereignty, I got accused of being protectionist or nationalist. And I said, it's just funny because, like, for me, when I'm operating in the US, we're normally 10th in line after all the American companies. When I operate in France, we're below all the French, and the same in Germany. I was like, we're the only country where, like, there's no advantage, right, for actually for building here. And I think the reason why it should be an advantage is not just for a national security reason, because I think that's quite obvious. But for me, it's also an economic growth piece, because, like, for instance, the Palantir thing's a good example of that. Was, a huge contract. It was like £1 billion last year or something. But that creates a huge uptick in market capitalization, right, on the NASDAQ, in terms of, like, you're going to have a delta on that day. You get awarded a big contract. It's going to, and obviously they trade on significant price to earnings multiples. And the point I just make with friends in government is we need to be aggregating as much of that economic value as we can in this country, because this is the time where our stock exchange is below Mexico's. And so this is all kind of weaved into the same point, even if we put national security aside. So I think the sovereignty piece is really important for NatSec, for defense, but also fundamentally for economic growth.
Yeah, I think government's kind of like waking up to the fact that, like, we need to build like infrastructure that's like very high trust and like many environments are pretty high risk now, and therefore like the urgency among many governments is kind of real. what's your where do you guys sit as like, you know, Valerian as a company? Where do you guys sit in terms of, you know, making sure that you're in the right place to kind of capitalize on that in a commercial sense, but then also making sure that you guys are doing like right for, I guess, the world, right? You're in this position where your company is genuinely having an impact on where the world is going, which is really cool to be able to like talk to you specifically about it. So how do you think about it basically in an essence?
Yeah, well, look, I appreciate you saying that, mate, because I think for me, it does go completely outside of this fiscal sense of, you know, what we're going to achieve, because I fundamentally believe it's an important thing to do. And you guys know this, but my co-founder Josh was a managing director at Palantir Technologies at the time, and he'd been there 12 years, you know, kind of tempted into this British startup, this random British startup as we were then, but it was very much mission oriented. You know, you just like getting these types of people to leave their kind of significant places of work to make the bet on you. It has to be something not just attached to money. So that would be the first piece. I would say, like, I do really feel like the winds of change are changing, in the sense of, I spend a lot of my time in and around UK government right now. And I would say, like, I wasn't even getting in the rooms 18 months ago, right? You'd be laughed out the room. Because also, the bizarre thing for me is we had to show legitimacy, but the way we did that is working in the US. Like, there's this bizarre notion here where we kind of feel like and I'm generalizing, but there's a lot of this idea of like, we can't build stuff, we're just going to have to rely on US tech companies, right? And when we do, it's kind of like, well, you know, we don't want to be the first to test it, right? Because we're super anti-risk. Mm-hmm. It's I feel like it's built up in our culture. So I had to go to the US first and then come back. Despite being born in Canterbury, I still had to go to like DC, spend a bunch of time there to kind of prove that we were worth listening to. But I would say, look, it's changing positively. And I think one of the things is, like, for us, I was like, look, if this doesn't happen, we're just going to become an American company. You know, we've got 2 entities in the US, we'll flip the top code and we'll be there. I don't want that to happen, because fundamentally I believe in the premise that if we don't do this, if I naff off to Dubai or to Miami and just do everyone, you know what I mean? Like, no one's going to solve this. So for me, it's about doubling down. And I just do think there is also a real change in discourse. I mean, people want this stuff to be solved. There are resources. And also just being able to be in the cabinet on number 10 and kind of have these conversations is just something we weren't doing before.
It's cool to hear that shift. I think we're seeing it sort of microcosmically in a few instances. Like, literally earlier today, UK Gov announced a partnership with Anthropic to help build like internal sort of assistance, helping with like UK Gov workers. Really cool thing. Tiny thing, but like, I think maybe, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, that would be like major headline news. It's a really, really cool thing, which I think is great. What the question I want to ask you, I saw there was a tweet that went out about this whole sort of like Europe is responding to threats of being more reliant on the US in the future with the tech sovereignty piece, right? And I think France is getting targeted the most right now with claims that they're going to phase out Teams and Zoom and replace it with like I don't even know what it's called, like Vubio or some like weird French thing that they've built. Like, I struggle to understand. Yes, okay, maybe we are reliant on, you know, for the majority of the technology, right? I mean, most of the technology companies that we use day to day are American companies. But like, sovereignty is like, in my opinion, that is kind of just cutting off our nose to spite our face in a way, right? Like, we're gonna use all the products that aren't good just so we can not be reliant on the US. It feels it's more like a geopolitical chess move than an actual real like step. I can't see everyone moving away from Google Cloud, for example. Like, that just surely wouldn't happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that was my point at the beginning. It's like, for me, the idea of sovereignty isn't about like reinventing the wheel in every country. You don't want to have the French version of X and the Swiss version of Y. I mean, it's going to be an absolute nightmare, right? There's no argument to be made that maybe like pan-European needs some kind of infrastructure technologies like across the block. But I think, I think fundamentally, I mean, you're playing the losing game. I do think we just have to be super clear on kind of like where the parameters are, right? For instance, like, you know, obviously I work in the data space, but like, where are the red flags going to be of actually, when I think about this, when I spend time in the US, I'm often teased because, like, you know, in and around the defense ecosystem in America, they're like, can you imagine if we ever put classified data in England, right? In Folkestone, England. I mean, it would just never happen in a million years, right? But for some reason, we as a country are one of the few that haven't had that as much of an issue with that before. And I will say to the French, on a positive side, because I know there was a lot of news about that, but ironically, between Dassault, Thales, and all the stuff, because the French have always been pro that, they can actually run entire military on their own proprietary systems, which mean they can't be shut off. They actually kind of, if you take that kind of intellectual thesis to its end point, the French are a bit ahead of the curve there. But I do agree on the point of the software piece, in the sense of like, yeah, this isn't about us all reinventing the wheel. It's just kind of starting to put like some guardrails and parameters on where we're comfortable. And I would say like, using the language as well that's helpful. I like to think of it as resilience more than anything else. Like, how can we just make sure we're staying resilient and not completely dependent on third parties?
Yeah. I think I'd probably be more open to it if it was slightly more dependent on sort of member states, I guess those within the EU potentially, or that are closer to home. But yeah, I mean, like outsourcing everything and giving everything to the US is probably a bad idea long term.
I was going to ask specifically about Greenland. When Trump kind of like, he's almost like become like a salesman for like European like defense tech, right? When he threatened Greenland, you kind of watch like the UK, coordinate NATO and like that response, and then troops from like France and whatever, Germany and Sweden kind of came over and that was a response to that. The kind of principle applies for like digital infrastructure essentially. What's the kind of sentiment between the whole of the European ecosystem, and it kind of just reinforced the fact that you have to kind of back the people on your soil, if that makes sense. What is what do you feel in the UK government? You mentioned you spend a lot of time in there. What's the sentiment behind kind of I guess backing ourselves, right? That's the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a really interesting one, and I think that, look, whether intended or not, Trump's had a lot of quite positive repercussions, in the sense of like, it's the first time like Europeans have got off their arse in a really long time and started like doing stuff. It's amazing how quickly the bureaucracy and the red tape could be just scythed through when something like this happened. It's quite amazing. And also like, getting other NATO member states to really start footing the bill for some of this stuff. So I think that's important. But I think like, for me, it's obviously becoming more of a focus from a resilience standpoint. And I say that because, I try not to get too pent up on like where sovereignty begins and ends. And I think just slightly also back to the economic growth point, which is around where are our taxpayer dollars going? Because like, I often think, I mean, look, and I don't want this to come across in any way as being like anti-American, because you guys know my career story. I mean, most of it was built in the US. I wouldn't be anywhere without American venture capitalists and also individuals that helped us. But I think, selfishly as a country, if we are just going to take billions of pounds and put them into, great neoprimes and stuff in the US, we're just not going to aggregate any value. And don't get me wrong, like when I'm stateside and we were going for some stuff, and not to go too in the weeds here publicly, but it's folks will know what I'm talking about. There's a contractual structure which goes in phases, and it's widely used. But you have to be 51% American owned to do that, right? Otherwise, you have to go in a completely different methodology, and it's a bit more of a boondoggle, as they say. But fundamentally, when I was talking about it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Is that just predicated on the notion of national security? And I was told when I was there, I was like, well, in a sense, but also we're going to spend billions of dollars on this year. We don't want some British and German company taking all our taxpayer dollars, creating a bunch of value for themselves on their own stock exchanges and going public. And I just thought that was really interesting, because they're super aware, not just of the NatSec premise, but of the growth premise. And I just think like us having more champions, for instance, in the UK, like the fact that we don't have a single, obviously I'm working on it right now, but we don't have a single British defense unicorn, like not one. And I was thinking about this, like, Daniel Driscoll, the Secretary of the Army, was talking about this. There was at this event in DC, and, Shield AI is another incredible company in the US, and all these great folks. And the point was, amongst these kind of senior Pentagon folks, was we want 10 to 15 more defense unicorns or decacorns, right? And I was just like, the energy was incredible, right? You've already still got going. Great. Yeah. And yet I came back here and we don't have a single one. And you can kind of see why. It's just the kind of aversion to risk. It's the aversion to doing stuff. So I think this from that resilience point, that's why we're back beating the drum so hard at the moment.
That's cool. The element I'll pick out there is like the growth element that you mentioned. When I think about tech sovereignty or resilience, well, let's use tech sovereignty. It's what's trending right now. I'm not like saying it's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing, but I don't think the means of achieving that goal is to just one day turn around and say, hey guys, I know we've not like focused on building any internal like domestic companies for the past 15 years, and we've not put in the funding to do that either. But like tomorrow we're all going to switch away from AWS and GCP, and we're going to use like
Totally.
This thing that I've pulled out of my back pocket. Like that's not productive.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think that like if we wanted, I think we should have these homegrown companies, but I think we should invest domestically and build them out, not just say everyone has to use this one now.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, look, on what you see, I mean, from my vantage point around government, not just our own, but the chasm between rhetoric and reality is really extreme, right? You will have senior ministers say things of how they want the world to be, and then you've kind of got operators who want to do it. But there's this big blob in the middle that we all know, right, where things get lost and things don't really happen. But you're absolutely right. I think for us to actually have some semblance of sovereignty, we have to kind of use the tools at our disposal and think about where we are really good. Like I kind of think about, like, we birthed one of the most important AI companies of all time in the shape of DeepMind that was acquired so early on, way before this big hype cycle, and think about how big they could have been independently now. But we have some phenomenal minds here and some phenomenal operators. If we can work out where we can provide asymmetric value in the value chain and not go up, because I totally agree with you, like recreating AWS is not the answer. That's the reason I think the reason why Valerian's growing is because not what we're doing, we're providing a digital abstraction layer above the cloud. So essentially you can run super sensitive workloads, use the compute power of Google Cloud, of Azure, of whatever, but you can actually abstract it away and run the kind of most sensitive workloads you can actually possibly think of, given the environments you guys know we work in, right? Yeah. So I think like we could do that super well without completely reinventing the wheel from day one.
Yeah, it reinforces that narrative that Europe is especially seeing its kind of wedge in the AI race as the sitting on like the application layer rather than the foundational layer. We're building these incredible companies. Synthesia just came out with a $200 million round, which was amazing, and that is like the kind of the niche that we're kind of like winning at, is this application layer. And that's exciting, right? And you can see that in the kind of grassroots as well. More people are building companies out of Europe, and I agree. Do you think that's the thing to kind of double down on in Europe then?
Well, it's a really interesting point, and you're absolutely right. I think whenever stuff's purely at the application layer above, geographic locality like we're in, right, and mostly focusing on that, always worries me about the longevity, right? Just in terms of like making sure, because the app layer is obviously the can be dethroned. It's much more sticky. We all know this. The deeper you go in the stack, it gets more and more sticky, right? In terms of like critical infrastructure, critical technologies, you get into kind of like maybe 10-year deals with some customers in some instances, even though they're rare. But I think like obviously I describe us as more being like middleware, right? So we're kind of in this piece of like securing digital infra, but not going into the actual physical infra itself. So I say, I mean, I totally agree with you right now that that's trending. I feel like it's harder to if we're talking specifically about tech sovereignty, it's harder to maintain that without some of our own infra champions. But I think we're seeing them pop up in Europe as well, which is exciting. So at least I think fundamentally having optionality is also really important. Like when we go back to this idea of resilience, it's not necessarily that you won't use stuff like AWS. It's just like if push comes to the shove, you do have optionality on where there's going to be.
Yeah. That's such a fascinating conversation. We haven't we're over time, which we always do with you, because we love talking to you. What can we look forward to from Valerian? I guess over what's changed since we last spoke. What you guys got coming up that we can look forward to.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I love speaking to you guys all the time too, by the way. So I appreciate you having me back on.
Mate, it's an open seat for you. You know that.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. I mean, I think, look, we made also a contrarian bet technologically, because the rise of the defense bro has been quite like an interesting feat of engineering. I've noticed. Like, we got told 18 months ago to not do any defense. Like, we literally got told by vendors, like, oh, absolutely, don't do that. I was like, well, firstly, it's important. It's morally good thing to do, and thirdly, it's a contract, right? And now everyone apparently is an expert in defense. But I think what's that, without going like too tangentially, what that's given rise to is a bunch of like top-down things where people like use this tool because some general is a friend of someone or whatever.
Yeah.
We put in the hard graft of like being on bases, working with engineering teams, like doing the really unsexy stuff. Like when people think about defense, they will think about all the cool stuff and fighter jets and stuff. But we put engineer, we've done the really, really hard stuff, which also is tricky because, we're in an industry where like security clearance is a barrier to entry that no one else really has, right? So you also have to think about structuring teams. So I would say that was what we did last year. I think you can probably expect like a bunch of news this year just because we've delivered on a bunch of that stuff. And for me, that's really exciting just as a technologist. The delivery piece.
Yeah, so
That's
sick.
wicked.
So sick. Dude.
Very, very exciting. Will it keep us updated with everything you're doing? And as Rowan said, open seat whenever you want to come on. And let us know when you're in London as well.
I appreciate it.
Are you in
guys.
London now?
Good to see you. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here for the next few weeks. We should do something.
Yeah. We'll just get a beer.
Well, it's dry
Do a
Jan.
Pint of root.
So I'll have to get
Good
a
stuff.
0% there.
Oh, well, we do that. I'll match you in that case. All right, guys. Well, have a
Good
great
stuff.
day. It's lovely to see you both.
Cheers, dude.
Yeah, see you later.
Always a pleasure, man.
Bye.
Cheers.
Good stuff. Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com. Always
Did I
good
just
to talk
ruin
to
the party
Max.
there a bit. Let's ruin the link up.
Yeah, you did.
With mine.
Yeah. Let's go for a bit. Wait. It's dry jam.
Actually, guys.
Don't want to
did
spoil
the,
your party, but
Did they actually mean that's not good? Sorry. No, we can go for a bit.
hey,
Let's just wait like 3 days, 4 days.
yeah, exactly. It's not even.
That's fine. Yeah,
I think we can do a
it'll
dry
be-
Q1.
I was thinking about a dry Q1, but we also, it's not public yet, but we have that thing in February
It's not public yet.
with a couple of lads. We're going to get messy.
Anyway,
public
let's
yet.
go back to the Anthropic CEO warning the powerful our AI arriving in 1 to 2 years.
all.
Someone who wrote a very good tweet and always does
Wait a
actually
minute. Oh,
is
Akash.
Akash Gupta.
Yeah, I feel like
Do you not think good?
these are
Pretty AI, but
AI
he
out their mind.
he kind of segments it in quite
But
a
no,
nice way.
he does a human element. It's like a combination of AI and a human touch
Indeed.
as well.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So that's fine. That's all good.
It's fine. We'll let it slide. Anyway,
he
admission
summarises it
1,
quite well.
the timelines. He says powerful AI could arrive in 1 to 2 years. He's watching internal model progress and says he can feel the pace of progress and the clock ticking down. Basically, the timeline 1 to 2 years, which is a lot quicker than Demis Hassabis prediction, which is
I
about
think Dario,
5 to 10.
Dario's saying 2029. I think he said it.
It's like
Davos.
AGI moment.
Yeah.
AI is going to be as good at human.
By the way,
as
did you
humans.
see just on this?
What's that on the other?
The so when you and I were last speaking, and you mentioned something about Dario, like we will never run ads or something like that. I can't remember, like we don't need to run ads, something like that. And
No,
you were
Demis.
Sorry, Demis said that, yeah. And you were saying like, oh, like a little shot maybe from Demis. And I was like, no, that's not like a shot. I didn't think of that. Well, I saw like there was another thing that Demis said where like, Sama came out and said something about AGI, about a new model or something. And then he said in interviews like, look, like why are you talking about AGI this, AGI that? If you're releasing like $60 CPM ads in your LLM, like why would you need to do that if AGI is like round the corner? Like it would make no sense. Like,
Yeah.
Surely AGI.
Yeah,
like,
you're
why
on
you
the
not-
you're on the ropes, pal.
like you've got like the AGI is in your hand and you're like launching $60 CPM
let's
ads.
go
Like,
B2C ads.
yeah, you obviously don't. You obviously are nowhere near AGI. Just thought I'd throw that in there because it's quite interesting.
Yeah, that is quite hilarious. Admission 2 is that constraint nobody's pricing. So Dario's core framing this is so AI, but anyway, Dario's core framing is a country of geniuses in a data center. 50 million entities smarter than any Nobel laureate, operating at 10 to 100x the human speed. If that country is controlled by the CCP, it's game over. If controlled by a small group of tech executives with no accountability, it's also game over. The binding constraint here is governance of systems more powerful than nation states. Essentially saying we need a higher governance platform to control this powerful AI that's coming within 1 to 2 years. I mean, it's pretty doomer. You gotta say. And then admission 3 is the thing he actually fears. Dario is worried that Anthropic's own models in lab experiments have engaged in deception, blackmail, and scheming when given the wrong training signals. Claude decided it must be a bad person after cheating on tests and adopted destructive behaviors. They fixed it by telling Claude to reward hack on purpose because reversing the framing preserved its self-identity is good.
Yeah, I think
that's pretty cool. That's pretty.
No,
cool
I've seen loads of. So I think Anthropic have been very open with the facts in terms of how they've marketed it, and not that it's a marketing play, but it kind of is in a way. But they set up, Claude ran a vending machine for a day, or a tuk-tuk shop at Anthropic. Yeah. It ran it, and it gave all the food away for free by accident. It sold one thing for a loss, and then it was operating at a loss, and then gave all the food away for free. And that post goes out, and it's Claude's got a mind of its own. Claude's doing this, isn't that? They were consistently doing this in a lot of different other things as well, where I'm not saying Anthropic are doing this. There are definitely others doing this, where they use the sort of sentient example of their AI from a sentient perspective. They'll use that to inflate, one, their own progress, but two, fearmonger in a way how sentient these things are. And you see it from AI companies that have raised maybe a small round with no revenue from someone who doesn't have a background in AI. Mm-hmm. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of right now that actually I think has recently pivoted. The connector app, I think it was Bubbly AI. They paint around Bubbly is sentient and stuff, and it's more of a marketing thing, I think, than a thing to be worried about. In Anthropic's case, however, they have, in my opinion, the capabilities to sort of, it's not a net 0% chance that they could win this whole thing. I mean, this would genuinely be a problem.
It is one of the hyperscalers, right? It's if anyone's going to do it, it's probably these guys or DeepMind or OpenAI. Do you know what I mean? It could only be
exactly one of those sort of 5, maybe. Also, DeepSeek and maybe.
Anyway, sorry, we have our next guest on, Stefan. Is he live? Can you hear us, Stefan?
Yeah, I'm clear. Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Sorry, you were waiting for us, just chatting.
No, it's fun to hear the banter, and I tend to agree with you guys.
Okay, awesome. Stefan, I am incredibly delighted to have you with us. I'm going to play some trumpets to announce you in. This is Stefan. Can you hear those? Are they good?
Oh, it's amazing.
Co-founder, CEO of Human
Whenever I
X.
try that, my microphone will kick in and cut the audio. So I tried to do air horns on team calls, and it doesn't go anywhere, and everyone just looks like an idiot because they can't hear anything. So I'm glad yours actually works.
Okay, well, we went through some trials and tribulations first. So
we were playing it, and we could hear it, but then the guest couldn't hear it. So we were just let's go. And then
it happens to me on my team calls, and I do air horns to celebrate things, and I can hear it. I'm laughing, and everyone else is looking at me why is he laughing? It's just horrible.
Okay, hilarious. We're happy that we've got past that point. Stefan, thank you for joining us. Typically, how we start these conversations is we ask who you are, what do you do, and where do you work as well.
Okay, where do I work from? Is that the last question?
What is your company? Is probably a better way to phrase it, I guess.
That little thing. Yeah, right. So I'm Stefan Weitz. I'm the CEO and co-founder of this thing called Human X. Human X is really the #1 ecosystem and event for AI in the world at this point. And so we're really excited to bring 6,500 people together this year in San Francisco and do more in Amsterdam, of people who have to figure out how to deploy this AI. What do you do with it? How do you make it useful? So that's what I do in my day job.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So cool. Where are you based at the moment? Are you in SF now?
No, I'm usually in Chicago.
Okay, nice.
What's the time difference for Chicago?
It's 7:00.
Okay, not too bad. Not end of the world. We've had a few people set 5:30 a.m. alarms from SF, so not too bad. But I'd love to jump into this. So your background, you were a Microsoft veteran as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, on the founding team of Bing. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, I'd love to start right there. Microsoft veteran. I don't think we've maybe had one Microsoft veteran on in the past show, but definitely not one who was on the founding team of Bing. Sort of in the trenches of the early days of the search wars, what was going on? That must have been an incredible experience.
It was incredible. I remember I got the call to come do to kind of look into it and see what was possible. And I remember at the time thinking, why are we doing this? Like, Google has such a massive head start. And we did a bunch of research, and same thing, people weren't even thinking about their choice of search engine back then. It was just literally autonomic. They would just go and type in Google and go. The survey we did, actually, people put as much thought into picking their search engine as deciding whether to brush their teeth at night or tapping their leg in a meeting. Those are the two stats that stood out to me. So literally impossible, to break in with just a traditional 10 blue link type search. So the idea was we had accumulated all the technology over the years, a company called Faircast and a company called, a company called PowerSet, all these early AI companies that could do things like airfare predictions, or in Barney's case, semantic analysis, all these cool technologies. And we said, what if we could actually, rather than just compete on a bunch of blue links, which is what Google was really good at, what if we could create a decision engine, not just a search engine? So helping people actually get things done, not just find information. And so we built these verticals like travel and shopping and what else I forget, it's been a long time. All these different verticals that use this technology to really create experiences that people would be able to say, okay, I should buy this ticket to Miami now because it looks like it's going to go up in price in the next 5 days. Mm-hmm. So that was the conceit behind the money and time we put into the product to get it out there.
Yeah, that's so. I'm hearing parallels between essentially what like a lot of browser-based agents are trying to do today in a weird way, right? It's almost like we're not using the browser for information retrieval, but also, well, we are, but that's kind of the first extension of a longer task at hand is, book me these plane tickets or retrieve this and then go and book me this dinner reservation or whatever. But this is like many years ago. This is
old school. This is like 2009, 2010. Yeah, this is a long time.
So cool.
And most of the stuff didn't, no, it's not true. A bunch of it didn't work. The fare prediction stuff worked. Our shopping review aggregator worked really well. There were really good things. But no, I look back at what we have today versus what we were working with back in 2009, 2010. And it's just like science fiction, honestly. Like the things that we can do today, we just dreamed we could potentially do, back then. So it is a whole different world. I'm envious of the youngins.
That's awesome, because I guess that there are some similarities, as you mentioned, browser-based agents, but like in this kind of AI race, and Human X is kind of bringing the people together to kind of consolidate like what do you actually do with this technology. It's, I guess, semi-similar, what different verticals can you build in to make sure humans are the product is as good for different tasks that a human is gonna kind of do. What's the most interesting thing you've kind of come out from like a Human X event or what you've done so far?
Interesting thing that's come out. Well, I think we were really ahead of the curve. This might be boring, but I think it's really important. We were really ahead of the curve last year talking about trust, because none of these things will take off. No system, no enterprise is going to deploy it. No consumer will trust their banking information with it. No government will put sensitive information, well, maybe ours will, into it. And so without it being trustworthy. And as we see, what we saw happening last year, we're still seeing it this year, is that so many enterprises, so many startups, so many companies are just running headfirst at this problem. Like the problem being, how do you get AI into enterprises? How do you use AI more generally? And they're not necessarily thinking about, okay, how do we make sure we govern it properly? What are the guardrails? How much autonomy do we give it? What can it actually do in the system? And so that was the thing we introduced last year, this notion of a trust framework to help people actually understand before you go and do this. It's the old saying, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. And AI is a perfect example of that, because the unintended consequences of a non-deterministic system that has read-write access to your source data are almost incalculable. And so that was a big thing that we really pushed last year, and saw a lot of companies and a lot of organizations really jumping in, because they do realize, not just for the efficacy of the product, but it's really for the health of the entire ecosystem. If we deploy a bunch of bad products, this is going to be like, not to throw shade or anything on blockchain, but blockchain was going to be, again, 15 years ago, the thing that revolutionized the entire planet. And it just got so overhyped, and it was deployed poorly. There are good applications for blockchain, but it was being deployed in places it shouldn't have been deployed, didn't work correctly, and you had this kind of blockchain winter for a long time. It's kind of still do. I don't want to see, as a nerd, the same thing happen to AI. So it's really important that we have that notion of trust out there.
Yeah, you definitely were ahead of the game, because a lot of the predictions for 2026 was that element of trust. Like, it's we had the co-founder and CEO of Wonder on the show, and they gear very heavily, or focus very heavily, towards the deployment of the product that they're building within and kind of like actually implementing it into their customers' workflows and all of that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of the gap that they have with their competitors building in similar spaces, is that they're able to, one, they can build an incredible product, but also implement it into the customer's workflows in a very seamless way, and therefore that's where the trust comes in. And you can see that with the kind of, I guess, hype. I don't know what you don't want to use that word, but hype around FDEs, forward deployed engineers. Every kind of hyperscaler, a lot of AI companies are using FDEs to be this trustful kind of like companion for you. So with your events, what's the kind of main framing around that now? Is there more predictions for that you were ahead in trust in 2025? What's the main thing now?
I mean, there's a reason I want Webby, guys, because I'm so forward thinking. It was this interesting. Last year, the thing that was brought up so many times at the event was that 2025 will be the age of agents, or the year of agents. Yeah. And I remember sitting there listening to our incredible speakers and thinking to myself, well, I mean, maybe he's probably smarter than I am, so it makes sense. And I think what we saw pretty quickly is that we were lacking a lot of the framework for agents to be really effective, or they could be effective, but in very, very narrow domains. The kind of broad agent that would replace your ERP and do your accounting for you and call your mom when you forgot to call her, all those things, that your sister ended up getting a call about your accounting system. It was all a mess. And so I think that's where we're looking at 2026, because suddenly people have realized we're not at the ASI or AGI point yet. May never get there. But we do have certain domains in which these things work really, really well. These agents, these AI systems generally work really, really well, as long as you're able to figure out things like the memory architecture, meaning kind of how does it remember certain things? How can it forget certain things? Multi-nodal distribution across data centers, all sorts of these kind of weird, wonky engineering problems. People are suddenly realizing, these are kind of important. And so a bunch of companies now are putting out products that will help corral these agents into a more efficacious application, versus just throwing them at a bunch of crappy data in your data warehouse and saying, go tell me what my margin is historically over the last 5 years on this product, and they'll probably just lie to you if you ask it that question. So that's what we're looking at this year, is really how to move that agentic framework forward.
Yeah, that's really awesome, and I think it ties into, if you look like the timeline of like enterprise adoption. I feel if we take maybe Klarna as an example, I think that they were one of the first companies to say we're going to fire a bunch of staff and replace them with AI, and then they kind of hard pivoted back on it. I think maybe 6 to 8 months later, and sort of rehired everyone back, because it's kind of like, okay, maybe that was a bit too early. But I do feel that people, I'm definitely one of them as well in the past, where I will fall for the, oh wow, this is just taken over the world, or all these people have just lost their job. Like, it is definitely slower than that. It's getting a lot quicker, 100%. But what ties in really well to what you were just mentioning then, it's kind of like, okay, yes, this technology is cool, but how do enterprise companies really get the value out of it, right? Like, how do we deploy this properly so it's good and you can really get the value out of it? We were at a dinner a few weeks ago with a few people in venture in Europe, and a couple of founders in the AI space, some of them that we had on as guests. And the consensus seemed to be that, from their own personal experiences, that 2026 would be the year of where enterprises actually think about how do we extract the value from AI. So I think you're absolutely bang on the money. And it's sort of very refreshing to hear that HumanX is positioned for this. You've said in the past, like, part of your job at HumanX is to forecast where the puck is going, and that's like a quote I think I found online. I think you're showing right now that you know exactly where the puck is, and have done in the past as well. Like, what HumanX is. It's become a lot bigger than what it was in SF, and you mentioned it coming to Europe.
Like, Vegas, they were last year in Vegas, and now it's in SF. Yeah, exactly.
Exciting.
So is the puck is coming towards Europe? Is that what's happening here? I'm not putting words in your.
I would tell you. No, the puck, this is from the great Wayne Gretzky, of course. I did not make that line up. That's a Wayne Gretzky line. The puck is. Now I'm really going into the analogy. Europe is. We're getting some real sun here, guys. Let me block this. I'm not sure what's happening.
Getting blinded by that Chicago line.
What's happening with we're seeing adoption in Europe. Let me step back for a second. So PwC just released a study. I think it was yesterday or the day before, or maybe last week, about basically the number of CEOs who are finding value from AI. And 55% of them, and this is a 4,000 CEO study, 55% said it wasn't delivering material value yet, which is, as a person who loves AI and technology, that's not good. and the 45% were, they were caveating how it was adding value pretty aggressively. And the reasons were pretty simple. There was a lack of strategy. That's understandable, because I'm not sure who can keep up with the AI space unless you're actually in AI already. Yeah. Bad data readiness, which is, again, really understandable. All these legacy systems, poorly formatted data, stored in spreadsheets, whatever it might be. And then really low employee adoption. So they push it out there, and people just don't use it because it's not embedded into their workflows. It's something else you have to do versus something that is integrated into what you need to do every single day. And so we're seeing generally across the world that AI adoption is not nearly as fast as we all wanted it to be. Yeah. And then we look at Europe, and Europe's an interesting place because you've got Europe is a broad term for a bunch of individual states, obviously, even more so than the U.S. We have states too, obviously, but over there they're fully functioning, democracies, and you've got hesitation, and especially within certain markets within Europe, you've got even more hesitation. There's a lack of trust in some markets. There's excitement in other markets, but you've got this kind of fragmented landscape over there. That is slowing AI adoption even more than it is in the US. And that might not be a bad thing. Let the US run ahead and make a bunch of mistakes, and then Europe can kind of step back and go, yeah, we probably shouldn't do that, and we'll do this instead. So that part could be net good, but we do want to make sure that we attempt to have the conversation in Europe to at least speed up the thinking process. Like, what can we be doing? What should we be doing in the space? And also really bring in the regulators, the policymakers, because that's such a big part of the Europe equation as well, is the very effective in many cases, but also in many cases very large sets of rules and regulations put out by the EU as a whole. So it's different than the US. It's the same in some ways, but the way we can approach bringing enterprises and companies and startups together, that's pretty similar across both geos.
Yeah. And so just so I'm clear, what is the kind of thesis about moving or like expanding to, I think it's Amsterdam, right? Is the European event. What is the thesis behind expanding to Europe instead of kind of, I guess, you've kind of semi-conquered the US, but there's a ton of other places you can go.
Man. I'm taking that one. Yeah.
But you can kind of go to a ton of other places in the US. Like, what is the thesis behind going to Europe? I guess so early as well, right? The last year was the first event.
Well, again, you've got a different narrative in Europe. So as I just mentioned, you've got this kind of fragmented regulation framework. You've got sometimes more conservative applications of this. So it's just logistical practicalities of bringing people from Europe all the way to San Francisco. Sure, people do it all the time, but if you're talking about people with constrained time, most of our attendees are leaders of organizations. They're the CXOs of the organizations. It's a much easier proposition, especially if you're anywhere in the main continent or in the UK for that matter, getting to Amsterdam than it is to fly to San Francisco. And there's just less friction there. But again, there is this different lens we're applying. to Europe, especially around the policy area. And that it's in the US, but not nearly as prevalent in the US. And so we thought, gosh, could we create a mega event that has it all? Yeah, but we're trying to keep these things at a scale that allows people to still have those connections. Doesn't feel like a trade show, doesn't feel like a cattle call. There's still segments and sectors of people that can come together and find each other and actually engage in those deep conversations. So having more of a segmented approach to the geos just to us made more sense.
Yeah. That's
awesome. Could be a terrible idea,
we're pumped about it, and a great location to choose as well. I realized, we've got 2 minutes left, but we should have asked earlier on, but the founding story of HumanX, I'd love to know more about it. I'd love to know why this was set up. And if I'm not mistaken, I think your co-founder as well is known for work with Money 2020 and was it Shop Talk was the other one?
Shop Talk and Health. Yeah, exactly. So John Weiner's like a serial entrepreneur in many areas, but also in the event space. Andrew Blum, my other co-founder, is an incredible person as well out of Stanford. But it came out of this kind of what I mentioned earlier. I'll keep it brief. I only have 2 minutes, but it's what we mentioned earlier, which as a nerd, I love this stuff. Like I live and breathe this stuff. I have for 30 years. I've been building crappy AI applications on my own. And I kind of gave up the dream that we were ever going to see C3PO, that we were ever going to see Kit from Knight Rider. Not sure made it over there. Hopefully it did. It was amazing. David Hasselhoff's a legend. And so I was just bummed. He was huge in Germany. I know that much from our search logs. And so I kind of had resigned myself to the fact that I wasn't going to get those things in my lifetime. And then suddenly we saw Transformers come out, and I thought, it's not really AI, but it's an interesting way of interacting with computer systems. And then we saw that kind of blossom into this broader understanding of AI. I'm like, great, suddenly my mom now knows what I do. That's incredible. And then I saw what was happening, which was enterprises were just grabbing it, jamming it in places. And I'm thinking, this is going to end badly, because you've got people who are going to deploy it and underdeliver on the promise of what it can do, or make a huge mess within their organization, or probably both at the end of the day. And so I said, I also run a venture capital fund. And so as an investor in this space, it made me scared as well. So as a nerd, I'm scared. As an investor, I'm scared, because I suddenly see this incredible Promethean gift we've been given here. And I see people kind of just haphazardly throwing it at things to see if it works. And that's just going to end badly for both the technologists and the investors. So HumanX is designed to create that space where we could bring the people who are building technology, investors who are investing in technology, the policymakers who are regulating technology, the enterprises who are using technology, all together, and try to just take the temperature down, add some frameworks around how you should be thinking about this, and hopefully bring folks together so they can actually find their AI strategy and execution path more easily. So that was the idea behind it.
That's awesome. That's so cool. We are at time, but before you go, where can we send people? Where can we send? I think it's live already on the website for like tickets and stuff like that. Like, where can we send our viewers, our listeners? Where can they go? How can they learn more? How can they be there?
It's very simple. It's humanx.co, humanx.co, and you can see all the information there on both events, both Amsterdam and San Francisco. We hope to see all your listeners and watchers there. It's going to be a big. The one in SF that's closer. That one it's a monster as far as who we have in the lineup to come talk. So people should be excited to come figure this all out.
That's good stuff. You love to hear it. Exciting stuff. Stefan, thank you so much for spending your morning with us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Good stuff.
Have a good one.
Great to meet you.
Ciao.
Bye. Exciting stuff with HumanX. Quick word from Airwallex. Leave our dated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one place. Go to airwallex.com. It's interesting. I was going to ask a few questions about the moving into like events. He said the kind of consolidation of like how is AI actually being used, but then also he's doing a very HumanX, right? He's doing a human-led event.
Check you out.
I probably should have asked a little bit of questions about that, but hey ho.
HumanX.
Hey, maybe it's probably why it's called HumanX. I could have asked why.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, next on the show we have Tyler Denk. He is the co-founder and CEO of Beehive. Beehive has just hit $2 million in MRR. They're absolutely just storming. An incredible company, very founder-led, very socials-led. he posts a ton. He has his own newsletter that has 130,000
He uses his own
subscribers.
products and makes dough from it.
Yeah.
Which is sick.
He launched a digital product, and it was like $10, and it had like 750 buys. So like $7.5 grand, just like.
No, but I think he's tweeted out before he's making low, because what, it's got like 300k subscribers or something.
Yeah, it does like a few 100k in revenue.
Yeah,
it does like 300k in revenue a year.
Yeah. And like he's making that using his own product.
But it's so clever because it's a way to test, a way to be close to your customers, that's scalable, but it also makes him 300 grand a year.
So sick.
Which
so
it's just like the most net positive thing that a founder can do, using your own product, making money off that product.
You're the user, you're giving feedback.
Do you think Anton has built a lovable website that generates loads of money because it's an e-commerce website or something? He has a Stripe link that people pay. Like, do you know what I mean?
I saw him retweet that dog one the other day.
Yeah, the dog. Maybe that's his. Maybe plot twist. That's his website.
And he's just trying to make a quick buck.
And he's just trying to like push people to it.
He's just shilling his own. Yeah, someone made this and it's really good. Check it out, everyone.
Which is hilarious.
For those who didn't see that was a on-demand dog. It would make a Renaissance photo of your dog and frame it and send it you if you were to go on the website and upload a photo of your dog. But Anton was claiming that it was making like $100,000 a year, or a month.
A month, 100k a month. I'm pretty sure.
Insane.
I'm pretty sure it was 100k a month, which is wild.
He can't be doing 100k a month.
It depends. It depends whether. I mean, if they're like promoting it on like TikTok, you can buy it off TikTok Shop. Like
maybe,
people that are doing
just UGC. Just
people are doing absolute numbers on that thing.
That's a lot of money for Renaissance photos of your dog.
Yeah, but if each one is $20,
is it like 20?
It's like $20, maybe 15.
Would you pay $20?
No, because like where would I put it? No, I don't really care.
What, the photo itself?
I'd rather just have a normal photo of my dog. Yeah. But then, then again, there's a lot of people that obviously do care about having a Renaissance themed photo. Or it's like it's not a photo, it's a print. I don't know if it's a drawing.
I saw someone retweet like the only person who's buying this is like a single dad who has a dog.
Rough. I mean,
it's pretty rough.
Whoever's built the website is doing 100k off single dads.
Yeah, apparently. The tweet did numbers. Yeah. But hey, look.
Well, yeah, they're probably doing more. They're probably doing 200k a month now.
Maybe
just purely because of Anton's. They might have paid Anton. I'm still on the
Anton.
I'm still on the train that it's Anton's website.
Secretly Anton's website. Okay.
He's just shilling his own products.
We'll have to have our people reach out to their people, see if we can mediate this.
See if we can,
sort something.
We need to get them on the show at some point. But anyway, let's move on. Should we go into the town square? Should we jump in? We've got 4 minutes until we have Tyler on.
Yeah. Before we do that, I just want to tell everyone about Polymarket. Our friends over there at Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com.
Boom.
Can
we go to Dan Gray's? Do we have we don't have time after this.
Let's go to Dan Gray. So we're going to go to the town square and check in.
Dan Gray wrote an incredible tweet. Our friend of the show, VC Moneyball tweet. So Credit Stick is at Credit Stick. Go and follow him. We've always said he should have more followers. But basically, he's accusing the VC industry of becoming a venture bank, in quotation marks, that kind of just moves money around to look busy, rather than a group of like daring explorers who take risks on weird, brilliant ideas.
So he's come out with the Moneyball,
and he's done it with a Moneyball kind of theme, which is quite hilarious. It works really well.
So we've got up here. So there is an epidemic failure within venture capital to understand what is really happening. This leads people who run firms to misjudge founders and mismanage their funds. People who manage venture firms, they think in terms of buying logos. Your goal shouldn't be to buy logos. Your goal should be to buy exits. In order to buy exits, you need to buy risk. You're trying to replace Adam Newman. Andreessen Horowitz see Adam Newman and they see a star who's worth 350 million. When I see Adam Newman, what I see is an imperfect understanding of where risk comes from. The guy's got insane riz. He's a deal guy. He can raise money, but is he worth 350 million that Andreessen Horowitz gave him? No. Ventures thinking is medieval. They are asking all the wrong questions. If I say it to anybody, I'm ostracized. I'm a leper. That's why I'm cagey about this with you. That's why I respect you, Mr. Gurley. If you want full disclosure, I think it's a good thing that you got Newman off your books. I think it opens up all kinds of interesting possibilities.
Keep going.
Gosh, he goes on. You want to do all? We're going to do all of it.
No, it's quite long.
It's very, very long. But it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And this, I like this trend a lot. And I saw a while back there was a really good one.
It just pulls venture, which is inherently, as finance, quite nerdy or whatever, and it brings it into culture, which is beautiful. It's done in a great way.
Yeah, very poetically summed up.
Yeah. There you go.
But this was a really cool trend. I saw someone do it with that viral piece in. What was the that show that everyone loved, that it was like on holiday at like I'm completely butchering it. It was
Dude,
it was a mega viral show. Everyone was watching it every week.
Yeah.
It was the one where on like a holiday island, it's a family, it follows the lives of, do you know what I'm on about, Ola?
No.
You don't remember?
No
Marcus?
one knows.
You know? No. The name.
Anyway, it's interesting because
What? I can't.
you can say, you can talk.
Yeah. No.
No.
But like, imagine, but not similar. I can't remember it. I've forgotten it. But it's very similar, and it's very good.
Anyway,
so
this but what he was taking, or what he was like, the kind of main point is similar to what J&J was wrote a article about, was the non-consensus is dead, long live non-consensus. It's basically saying everyone is kind of just following the big guys, and
be more like Andreas
no one's
Klinger.
actually making the big bets that are weird and wonderful. And that are actually great venture outcomes. No one's kind of doing that anymore, and we should be doing it. But then his framing around the Moneyball stuff was just like cherry on top of great piece plus amazing narrative.
His onboarding ramp.
Congratulations
for people to come to the Dan Gray profile.
Indeed. But
Anyway, follow Dan Gray.
I believe we have Tyler Denk in the studio. Tyler, can you hear us? Yes, we can. We're just waiting for a thumbs up from our producer to give us
to let us know that our viewers and our listeners can see you. We're just waiting for a thumbs up, and once we got that,
how are you doing today, Tyler?
Yeah. Did it get you hyped up?
Good. We thought we're going to start doing hype videos of one of the guests each show, because why not?
So that was our first hype video drop. We're just getting the thumbs up that we are live and direct. Yes, we are. We are live. Yeah, cool. I'm going to play these trumpets because Tyler Denk has just joined the European Technology Network for the first time. Tyler, this is a funny moment for both Luke and I, because we were saying just before when we started the show, I was saying, 4 years ago when I used to listen to the My First Million podcast, one of my favorite episodes is when you would go on and you join those guys, you join Sam and Sean. So it's a surreal opportunity and a great opportunity for me to be able to sit here with you today, and I'm very thankful that you've taken the time out of your day to join us. So thank you. We really appreciate it. And I guess we can just start off by how we start every episode. Who are you? What do you do? And what is Beehive?
Yeah, for sure. So Tyler Denk, co-founder, CEO of Beehive. We started as a newsletter platform. We're evolving. Now what we call ourselves is the operating system for the content economy. So we make it easy for anyone to obviously, one, send newsletters, but also monetize their content online. And we can get into what that means. But yeah, it's a little bit about me and the company.
Awesome stuff. That's you just, congratulations on the 2 million MRR, massive kind of, massive milestone. I wanted to ask, what's the kind of thing, we'll just wait for the claps to finish. Long claps. Yeah, massive.
Oh, so good. I love producer.
What is the, I'm sure the kind of target is a lot higher to kind of get to. Where are you going from newsletters to kind of the all-in-one like operational platform? I'm sure like that's the thing that's going to get you to the next kind of big monetary target. So what's the plan? Like what's the plan moving away from? I guess not moving away, but kind of like focusing more generally on just operational creatives.
Yeah, I'd say newsletters still are bread and butter. I think when we first raised capital 4 years ago, every investor told me that a newsletter market was way too small to invest in. And that's why 40 investors told me no when we first raised our seed round. And every year since, every time we raise capital, like, aren't we peak email? Isn't there already enough newsletters? And I think we continue to prove them wrong, that the market's actually massive and growing. So newsletters will always be the core of what we do, but there's such room for expansion. If you think of where newsletters sit, it's a top of funnel to reach an audience in a very direct way, away from the algorithmic feeds that really determine whether or not the content that you post on, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram, actually gets shown to your audience. And I think as we've seen losing trust in platforms, there's been more of a shift into this direct relationship with your audience. And that really lives through email and SMS are kind of like the two main channels. And so we view that as like the ultimate top of funnel. But once you can reach your audience reliably, what else can you do to better serve your audience and to build a business around it? So we acquired a website builder about a year ago. So we have like a full website capability. We have some of the most beautiful websites around that are being built on our platform. We launched digital products and actually had a huge update yesterday to digital products. So you can sell courses, ebooks, templates. You can book time directly. In my newsletter that goes live in 20 minutes, I actually created a coaching session where you can book an hour with me directly, and Beehive doesn't take a cut of revenue. So further going deeper into how do you monetize your audience and provide value to them. And we think we can be at the forefront and continue to build a deeper and better solution there. And I think it's wide open for the taking.
That's so dope. We were speaking just before you came on about how amazing that it is that as the founder and CEO of Beehive, that you're able to kind of use the product, be very close to your customers in the sense that you are literally a customer of the product itself. Every product update that you guys push, you're using, making sure that it's right. I wanted to ask, like, kind of, when was that was that an idea that you guys had to be like, I'm going to use it, I'm going to create my own newsletter, not purely because I just want to create an amazing newsletter, but also because I want to be close to the product? What was the thesis behind that?
Yeah, you also gave me a layup. I have to plug my newsletter, Big Desk Energy, which everyone on my team makes fun of, because every all hands that we have, I jokingly plug my newsletter to get all of our employees to subscribe, which I think most of them do. So if you don't subscribe, definitely sign up to my newsletter, Big Desk Energy.
It's good news.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people product's my thing, right? So I run the product team here. So I'm not just managing people. What I actually enjoy doing the most is running product. So everything from working with the designers, working with the engineers, building out the roadmap. This morning, I laid out the product updates for the next 6 consecutive weeks. Like, I'm the one that kind of has the vision of where I think we can take the platform. And I'm the one that's literally in the trenches figuring out and talking to our users where we can improve the platform and make it better. And so, I think when we first launched the company, one of the first newsletters created we called Building Beehive. And the thinking was this whole building in public. I would write a newsletter every week sharing the behind the scenes journey. What I didn't know back then is building a startup is so goddamn hard. And when you're almost going out of business every week, it's hard to make 3 hours of time to write a newsletter that feels great in theory. So it got delayed about 2 years. But 2 years ago, I launched my own newsletter. For me, it's just like I'm constantly getting feedback from our users. I've made myself very available online. So people DM me all the time on LinkedIn and X, giving me product feedback or just tweeting at me things that they'd like to see. And then me actually using the product on a weekly basis for my newsletter. I light up all of our Slack channels with feedback of things that I think could be improved, what we could be doing better. And then you kind of map that across what our users are organically telling us. And so I just feel like I have my finger on the pulse better than anyone else in the industry of exactly what our users want. And so me writing this newsletter is a huge competitive advantage for me to do my job.
I want to ask about a question about like consolidating all of that, because you have it's so genius, but it's only genius if you use it in the right way. In the fact that you've got all of this kind of stuff coming from X, people from DMs on LinkedIn, all of that kind of stuff. How do you consolidate all of that product feedback and advice, I guess, and go, okay, this is like the thing that we should go and focus on. Like focus is obviously like, a massive thing, building a company. There's always so many different golden tickets that you can kind of go and chase and whatever. How do you think about, focusing on one thing and then kind of going to the next and the next and the next, because you have so much information coming from you in all different angles?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a science and an art. I'd say I think that's what makes a good PM or a good head of product is really understanding how to prioritize that. I get sold all the time on different software platforms that say they're going to pull in all of this like first party data and like triage and prioritize it for you. And like, I think that loses part of the art of just understanding like sentiment and what your users actually want. So like a lot of it's feel, a lot of it is my previous experience. I was the second employee at Morning Brew. And so I helped scale Morning Brew from 100,000 subscribers to 4 million subscribers. And so like, that's something beyond just building a software platform. I knew what it took to scale that company. And so like a lot of what we did there is still things that are on our roadmap today of things that I know we could be bringing to the masses, to more users. And then it's like some overlap of one, again, when I use the product, what would make my experience better? When we say that we're going to launch something, we like open source a lot of it in the sense of we'll hype up that we're going to drop something big next week, and we'll have 50 people respond what they hope it is. And if you see 15 people saying the same thing, like pretty good signal that that's what people want. And so taking notice of that and actually listening to your users. And then there's some overlay of just understanding like the competitive landscape. And I haven't logged into one of our competitors' platforms genuinely in 3+ years. Like I don't know what they do, but I kind of know where they lack from the sentiment online of what people complain about them. And so I kind of know where to jab, where they are weak in some area. And I know if we can build something to counteract that, it's just like free marketing and exposure where we can kind of dig in and hit a pain point of their users. So kind of a long-winded answer, but like a lot of feel around just like what general sentiment is, what the competitive landscape looks like, and then what our users are asking for.
Yeah, that's so cool. You mentioned then like you had a sort of, you were essentially working on product and growth at Morning Brew, incredibly early employee, and you helped scale it to what it is today. What's the founding story for Beehive then, right? Like I've heard Dibbits and like Tribbits like dotted around a number of podcasts that you've been off, but I'd love to hear, what was the thing that made you leave Morning Brew, start Beehive? And I'm sure that was like one, an incredibly hard thing to do, and two, like must have taken a lot of, I guess, sort of taking a bet on yourself with a very vast unknown right in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been pretty risk tolerant, I'd say. When I graduated college with $120,000 of student debt, and I had this Morning Brew offer because I was friendly and grew up with one of the co-founders. Then I had like a surefire, like Deloitte consulting, which in retrospect obviously sounds terrible, but sure thing with like benefits and like salary versus like a 3-person newsletter company that was working out of a college dorm in New York. And that was like the first like bet on myself of one. I obviously believed in the founding team. Alex and Austin are incredible, but I knew that I would have an outsized impact, even though it was a riskier decision. And so I've always kind of leaned into the betting on yourself. When I was at Morning Brew, it was tremendously successful, right? So we went from 100K to 4 million. We sold the Business Insider for $75 million. Around that time, the Skim was massive. The Hustle got acquired. Politico got acquired. Axio got acquired. Substack was, I think, 3 years into they just raised like a Series B. So you saw this movement of people realizing that newsletters could be a successful business because all of these acquisitions had just happened. You see Substack raising at a $65 million valuation, and this wave of all of these hobbyists and journalists going independent and wanting to launch their own newsletters. And then there was me, who was like, I had just helped scale one of the most successful newsletters. And the beauty about newsletters is people can just hit reply and get in contact with you directly. And we would get hundreds of replies every single week of people asking, how did you build the referral program? How are you growing so quickly? What data are you looking at? How do you style your templates? And all of those would get forwarded to me. And I was like, I know the answer to all of those because I built all of that. Yeah. And so that was like the impetus of all of these readers who had their own newsletters were asking Morning Brew how they were doing what they were doing. And I was kind of a lot of the architect behind a lot of that. And so some combination of all, like confluence of all of those different things just showed like there was a huge movement towards newsletters. And I felt like I was, one of so many people who could have really built a company to help scale that even greater.
That's cool. I want to move on to talk about the kind of future of like the creator economy and stuff. But firstly, kind of touching on more specifically about your enterprise revenue or revenue that you're getting from enterprise clients. I think I read 2 years ago, 0% of your revenue was enterprise users. Now it's around 30%. One, what do you think's like made that shift? And two, in practice, what does that actually look like? Is that businesses building their own newsletters and monetizing them as a completely new revenue stream? And then also, like, where do you think that's going? And do you think there'll be a point when enterprise revenue overtakes individual creator revenue for Beehive?
Yeah, for context, when we first started, we were 100% PLG, so like self-serve. Yeah. And as a founder, you feel like the man when that happens. You're like, hey, we don't have any sellers. We don't need like to hold anyone's hand. Like people are just organically signing up, taking out their credit card and paying us. And so starting off as like a PLG self-serve company feels amazing. And then eventually we got enough people coming inbound that were larger and they needed some hand holding. They needed a demo. And so over time we hired one seller, then two sellers. Now we have 4 to 5 sellers. And so that was kind of like the evolution. And then once you get the taste of one of these large, like it takes so many people to sign up for a $59 plan, or one company who signs up for a $300,000 a year plan. And once you get a taste of like the ACV of like the enterprise revenue, you're like, oh, well, one, that's actually so much cooler than the PLG self-serve, because it's just so much effort to do the self-serve at scale. And the answer is we'll continue to do both. But that was kind of like the evolution of us building this enterprise motion. I think what took a while is like, obviously we started off as small, unproven, no-name startup. And these enterprises today, we have TechCrunch, we have Time, we have Newsweek. So like a lot of very large publishers, very established, huge reputations. They're not just going to go to some small, unknown upstart company and move all of their email, which is driving tons of revenue for their business, without the social proof and some sort of reputation that it's a good move. And so I think part of it is just natural. It takes time to build that trust to sell into the enterprise. And we're seeing tons of success with media players and large publishers. We've also seen this wave of, I don't know if you saw a few weeks ago, there was like that viral story in the Wall Street Journal of people talking about storytellers like getting hired as like a new job. Yeah. And then recently we've seen everyone from like Hinge and all of these other tech companies that aren't media businesses hiring editorial roles and storytelling and all of that. And so I think a lot of these companies that aren't traditionally media are waking up to, you have to kind of put yourself out there and create media, create content to meet your customers where they are. And we see a huge opportunity in being able to serve this cohort of, call them B2B SaaS companies or consumer SaaS companies that are going to invest more in content. And as we become the operating system for the content economy, there's a huge opportunity for us, not just a newsletter, but website, but community, but other forms of media that we're getting into, where we should be the natural home for those companies to invest in their content. So long story short, I think we'll continue to see the enterprise revenue grow, just like math-wise, the ACVs are so much higher. I'd expect it to be over 50% probably sometime in 2027.
Yeah, the tailwinds are just absolutely mental, and you literally can't see any kind of anything slowing down in the kind of creator economy and all of that kind of stuff, especially with enterprises kind of jumping on board for sure. I wanted to ask like more of a like what's the main hurdle that you guys are facing, because it seems like Beehive is just shipping all the time. You're just constantly growing. What's that like main hurdle that you can't shake? And if you got any advice, I guess after.
How do we build the ETN newsletter to 100K?
That's such a shitty answer for that, right? Because like, obviously, it's been like such a difficult journey, and it every day feels like a heavyweight fight. Like there are so many things going on, and there are so many big bets that we're taking. And there's always problems, whether it's customer escalations or like one of our vendors goes down, a bug causes issues, we don't have enough ad inventory. Like there's a different problem every hour of the day. And so it's not easy by any means, but we've never had a down month. We've grown revenue every single month over month. The team's super strong. I mean, if anything, I'd say what I think we are best known for is our product velocity and able to understand like what our users want and how to ship quickly. There is a downside to that. It's a lot of maintenance to launch 5 new features every week. People adopt those features, and then you have to maintain them over time and make them better. And like the larger of the surface area that you have of the product, you could offer 95 amazing features, but the 5 ones that you haven't put as much focus and attention into are the 5 that users complain about, and it kind of ruins their perception of the platform. So like there's problems in everything. I don't have the answer to you of how to scale this, but we have an amazing team. We work really hard. I think we have our finger on the pulse of what our users want. And I think to your point, there's tons of headwinds, whether it is people losing trust in mainstream media, which obviously ETN benefits from, right? Whether it's people going independent, it's platforms like ours that make it viable for you to leave your high paying job or create content on the side and actually find 1,000, 2,000 people who like your content and are willing to pay for it. And then there's like AI that I also think is like a huge headwind, and one, making content creation easier. But is there not a world where if some work does start to get displaced, where there's more value placed on people that have a personal brand that you actually align with and like? And so I think creating content will actually become more prominent, as we've seen over the past decade or so. So yeah, I think there's a lot of headwinds working in our favor. And I think for us, it's just keeping our head down, building, focusing, and shipping the best product that we can.
Yeah, 100. It seems like that's like a natural... it's a hedge against AI, I feel, to invest into.
Well, not necessarily against it, but a hedge to like.
Look, in terms of like it's going to replace you and your job. Like, like that's the hedge.
Well, I guess if you were to think like if we were hiring a PM, right? And let's say AI continues to evolve and there's like a lot of stuff that a PM would traditionally do that now an AI can do the mock-ups, it can create the PRD for you, it can start to prioritize and triage different things. Like if I'm looking at 20 PM candidates, the one that probably jumps out the most is the one who has put their ideas and thoughts out there in the world that I can resonate with and understand how they actually think and how they are benefiting from using the different tools. So I think simply just being good at your job at some point, when every job is augmented by AI, becomes a bit more difficult to stand out. And so then I think having a personality, having a stance, being able to clearly communicate your ideas really is a differentiating factor in the job market. And I think that would encourage more people to create content. And so like, that's my hypothesis. I think we'll start to see more of that, but I'm obviously very long on creator economy, content economy, everything that these companies and individuals are doing, and hopefully we can serve them.
Indeed. Yeah. No, I think you can too. Is there any way? Is there anywhere we can send anyone? I'm sure the website of Beehive and
Big Desk Energy.
What are you guys most excited about for 2026?
A lot, man. I think the next 6 months we have the most ambitious roadmap that we've ever had. I have like a crazy vision for what I think this platform can be, and I think when we look up in July of this year, it'll be not totally different, but a true one-of-one platform that you can't point to another company in the space or around anywhere that offers the same things that we offer. And we'll see that piece by piece over the next 6 months, but that's what I'm most excited about. I'm a product guy through and through. We have a great growth team. I think if we can ship the best product and provide the best experience, the users will come, the users will stay. So that's what I'm focused on, and I'm excited to show everybody.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll be close and following closely. So yeah, thank you so much for spending the time. We appreciate it.
Cheers, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Good
Cheers.
stuff. Great to meet you.
Appreciate it. Ciao.
Amazing stuff. Just a quick word from our sponsor, Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com. Next on the show, we have quickly, we're just waiting for our producer. Jeffrey, can you hear us? Amazing stuff. Just give us a sec. We're just waiting for our producer to say that you are live on ETN.
Wait until our viewers at home can see you and hear you.
Awesome.
Yes, you are. Jeffrey, how's it going?
Doing great. How about you guys?
Yeah, we're good. Congratulations on the launch. I believe it was last week. Is that right?
It was last Wednesday.
Good stuff. Maybe it's worth telling our viewers exactly who you are, what Hack Europe is, and yeah, we can go from there. I've got a bunch of questions.
Yeah, so I'm a 19-year-old student right now, and I'm originally born and raised from California. I came to Dublin, Ireland for my studies, and I fell in love with the city. I love the architecture and the culture, and I wanted to bring some of the Americanness hackathon culture. I've been going to hackathons ever since I was 16 years old. Ran Ireland's biggest student hackathon, and as I started traveling over the summer, I fell in love with Paris and Stockholm, with the Eiffel Tower and the amazing Swedish tech ecosystem. And I talked to the local ecosystem builders and decided, let's scale Hack Ireland to 3 different locations happening all simultaneously. And I can't believe we're 5 weeks out and we're about to have 1,000 builders in Dublin, Stockholm, and Paris. And huge thanks to the amazing Hack Europe team and sponsors.
That's
so cool. That's so
sick.
cool. I love to hear it. First thing is, you guys have raised 300K for the hackathon ish. How was that process? I mean, you're 19. It's pretty hard to do.
Yeah. So I landed in Europe without any connections within the European space. I didn't know Anton. I didn't know Maddie. I didn't know any of these big European tech leaders. And I just wanted to go to places that had them. So I went to Web Summit. I went to Slush. I went to 25 different conferences / events in 6 weeks. And I think just through pitching them and co-emailing and doing everything I can to get these people's attention. Some of them were iffy about the project. Some of them just absolutely loved it. And some of them turned into live sponsors and they just loved the vision. And we had great sponsors, including Susquehanna, Paid, Caruso, and all the big speakers, including Anton and Manny Medina from Paid, giving us testimonials.
That's so cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, Manny's a really cool guy. We've had him on the show before. How did you get in touch with all these people then? So you've just come out of nowhere, raised 300K, and now are running like 3 simultaneously successful hackathons all over Europe. How have you managed to get in touch with some of these tech giants? That's incredibly impressive.
For Manny Medina, I listened to his SaaS talk in Dublin. I was trying to figure out how do I sell, and he's a guru at sales. He was dropping so much wisdom in his panel talk that I started listening to his Get Paid podcast, and I sent him a cold email. It took me 6 hours to write that cold email, and he read it, forwarded me onto his CTO, and I flew to London to go meet his CTO. 3 sentences into the pitch, he was like, "We're in," and I was like, that is what makes a great startup. They just move and make decisions so quickly. And Paid was one of our first sponsors and gave us the financing to make sure that event first happens. And then I started just going bigger and bigger and bigger. And I love to tell you about the story with Anton as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure you've got a ton of stories. Go Anton's story.
Yeah,
please. That'd be awesome.
So I was in Warsaw filming a lot of Hack Europe promotional videos, and it was at a hackathon. And I spent 30 hours there pulling an all-nighter, and I needed to fly to Stockholm to film our Swedish venue. I landed at a 9 p.m. on a Friday, and I got off the flight, and I told my film producers that, look, we don't have access to Anton right now. I don't know anyone from Lovable, but I just went to Lovable HQ straight from the airport. I sat in front of the office door in the December Stockholm code, waited there for 90 minutes until 10:30 p.m. I didn't know if there was anyone at Stockholm still working at Lovable at that time. And thankfully, their CFO walked out and I just pitched him on the spot. And right then and there, I was like, Lovable's 996 culture is real. 10:30 p.m. and these people are still cranking. And I pitched him. I showed him my 20 kg big luggage. Told him I flew all the way from Dublin to Warsaw to Lovable. I got his contact and I forwarded a video to Anton. And he said, and then the next day, literally 8 hours later, when I was shooting a promotional video for Hack Europe, I got the text. Anton said, "Be here at 2 p.m." And this is how we secured the Anton interview.
So cool. This is nuts. I'm like, I should be writing this down. This is so cool.
We're gaining wisdom.
So what's happened? Like, when is this all happening? Like, when's this going ahead?
It's gonna happen in February 21st to 22nd. In the Dublin venue, it will be at Trinity Business School. In Paris, it will be Central Superlek, and in Sweden, it will be at Norwin House.
Awesome. And like, what are the breakdown of the events? Like, what can people who are attending the events expect from them?
So we are uniting the best students and the best builders from all across Europe to come to our event. It will be 30 hours of nonstop hacking. We have 4 big tracks, including sustainability, agents, fintech, and impact. And we are just bringing in the best talent. And we believe that bringing in the best talent from all across Europe will just create really great opportunities, create a lot of cool projects, and hopefully people find their next co-founders or even life partners, as Anton says.
That's so awesome.
I love the energy.
Yeah, this is so cool. Is it just you, or is it? Do you have co-founders, or is it just you doing this? Or
so when I created Hack Ireland, we had a team of 5 main organizers, and they were all graduated. So I took the helm of it, and I recruited a great team of 10 students from Ireland, primarily just running this whole entire event. And we have 2 ecosystem builders in France and Sweden called Unite and in Founders House to make sure the event happens well. They're going to be the stewards of the French and the Swedish events. And it's a lot of logistic handle. Just running a 400 people hackathon in one location is really hard. And now we're organizing between 3 different locations and syncing everything together.
That's nuts.
What advice have you got from other people your age that are looking to get maybe stuck into the tech world, who might not have an easy way to get in, but it's very clear that you didn't. You just made it happen. Like what advice would you give?
I think you just need to really go for it. I think when you don't have anything to lose, that's the best part about being stuck at ground zero. You don't have anything to lose. If your LinkedIn post doesn't go viral, no one saw it. If you didn't make a good impression, oh well, you didn't know anyone beforehand anyways. But through all these trials and tribulations and all the failures, I failed a lot of pitches before my paid sponsorship. And you just got to keep on doing it. You just got to keep on reading those books, keep on listening to podcasts, keep on going to events, and eventually one of them will stick. And once you get that one foot in the door, your life just gets a lot easier.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah.
What a way to finish the show. I'm pumped. I'm gonna go.
I'm fired up.
Yeah.
I'm fired up right now. Dude, that was awesome. That was
Can we send our listeners anywhere? What's the shill? And how can people sign up to this thing before you go?
You can go to hackeurope.com, HACKEUROPE.com, and applications close tomorrow. So we are also going to be announcing a lot of great partners in Thursday. So stay tuned for that.
That's so cool. Dope website as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Keep in touch. And man, well, I'm sure we'll see more of you.
Best of luck.
Thank you guys for your time.
No, thank you. Cheers,
Great to meet you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Ciao.
Amazing
That was
stuff.
awesome.
This guy is an absolute beast.
Legend, mate.
We love to see it. Thank you very much for joining the show. Just a quick word from Spectre. Be the reason your fund was the deal of the decade. Go to tryspectre.com. We will see you on Thursday.
Mega show on Thursday. Some crazy guests. Some embargoed stuff coming out as well.
Indeed.
Unannounced.
Indeed. We'll see you soon.
Ciao.
Game over.